Thank you for accepting to be a part of us today. And most importantly, allow me to thank our partners from the U.S. Mission in Uganda and the Bank Media Initiative for walking this journey with us today. We are here today to have a media viability conversation, to find new ways or strategies with the different media players on how we can be able to build a media literate public. But most importantly, we are here to launch our year-long project that will be implementing with MCI and the bank with support from U.S. Mission in Uganda. And this will be aimed at promoting media literacy for the young journalists across different communities and universities to counter misinformation and disinformation in Uganda through evidence-based reporting.
That's amazing. But knowing MCI, I was actually a fellow as well.
Great.
Yeah, my cohort should be there somewhere watching.
I know, right?
There are very many opportunities or different projects that you could have carried on.
Okay.
Why this one? Why media literacy?
First of all, why media literacy? MCI is an organization that focuses on building the next generation of journalists in Africa. And we've been doing this over the past 10 years, where we have managed to train over 3,000 young journalists in multimedia aggressive journalism practical skills. And over the years, we've realized a gap or an increase in misinformation and disinformation, not only among young people, but also among the people who are practicing media. And we realized the need to train 22 trainers in media literacy. And also we're privileged that through the fellowship program we conduct as MCI every year from different with 26 journalists from different universities. We got at least 5 fellows who are able to start up the first ever fact-checking organization.
I know.
I know, right?
Now, if you don't know the D-Bank,
now you know.
My fellowship, they kept on drumming the drum about these guys who are part of the fellowship. Now they also have a media company, media initiative, and my guy. It's interesting. But as the head of partnerships, I want to find out from you, what do you expect after this whole project? What do you hope to achieve?
Basically, we hope to achieve a lot with our partners, and we shall be conducting a series of trainings on fact-checking and media literacy across universities and communities. We shall be doing fact-checking hackathons, hosting public conversations on media viability around misinformation like this one today. And at the end of it all, we shall be able to achieve timely and factual access to information for just not the young people and journalists, but also the potential victims who succumb or who are affected by the perpetrators' misuse of information. And most importantly, we shall be able to not only just have media literacy or media literate publics, but also be able to have informed decision-making through accessing this information in the right time and the right place.
Definitely, because I have a couple of friends of mine, and basically we're always on social media. It's either Instagram, Twitter, or even TikTok, by the way. We see reels and we're like, hey, so this is happening around the world. And speaking about disinformation and misinformation, that's where the bank comes in. And the gentleman, Edgar Matthew Karuhanga, you have been a fellow as well.
Yes, please.
First of all, how was it? When you were joining the fellowship, did you expect yourself to later on be the head of training of a fact-checking
organization?
Company? How does that work?
Thank you so much, Caleb. And of course, thank you to our people who have honored our invitation to come here at the launch of our particular project. Did I expect to be the head of training at the bank? No. I never saw it coming. For me, it was just, I took part in a competition to just show what I do best or what I know to do. And that was news anchoring and presenting on TV. And it culminated into a fellowship, and which culminated into the Bank Media Initiative. So I never saw it coming, but I think it was by the grace of God. And behold, the bank is here.
So now, as the head of training, along what lines are you collaborating with MCI?
Okay, we're mainly collaborating on two areas or two themes. Mainly is the D-Bank Info Verifier app. Now, we want to harness the positivity of technology, and we feel technology will help in fighting disinformation and misinformation. So that's why we are developing the D-Bank Info Verifier app, which is going to be, I don't want to preempt the conversation, but it's going to be automating the fact-checking process. It's going to be linking us to the consumers of our fact checks, or people who actually want us to verify information for them. It's going to be having the ability to track misinformation as it goes on. In case it's repeated, it can actually also, show us that this claim has been repeated. So it's an ambiguous thing.
It sounds really interesting. I'm thinking about it now. If I read a particular article and I have to just check and be like, is this true or false? Really looking forward to that.
Exactly.
But and I know you will tell us more about that. But what do you hope to achieve ultimately?
Ultimately, we hope to fight false information and see a reduction of false information and fake news, first of all, because people have a tool that is going to help them in fact-checking information at the end of it. In fact, I told you there are two thematic areas. I had not talked about the second area, which is capacity building and training. So we are conducting training for 50 young journalists all over the country. We've already done that. In the past, we've trained more than 200 students from 5 universities in Uganda. But these universities were mainly based here.
Central.
Yes, so this project is going to leave the central, but also start to move in other regions to try to train young journalists from there to be able to fact-check information on their own. But also, as they finish up their school, we can believe or we think. In fact, even if they're still at school, they can be able to fact-check information.
Because all of us need the information. We have phones, we have access to media, but then there's lots of misinformation around there. And talking about that. So there's this...
capacity building is the way to go.
So there's this person that texted me. She told me that she loves me. Will help me find out whether that's true or not?
That they love you.
Hey, she says she loves me, but we can't debunk that statement.
Now, you see, I don't want to be training people what we fact check and what we don't fact check, but we do not fact check opinions and sentiments. That feels like a sentiment. Yes, someone may love you, and I think it's about them. So what we fact check is something that has evidence. If there's evidence to it that can help in fact checking, then we can fact check it. So we don't fact check opinions, and we don't fact check things that have not been that have not come to pass, like predictions.
Oh, thank you.
We cannot also fact check.
It's a prediction.
But as we continue, I would like to find out, Patricia, what are you most excited for today?
I am so super excited to see that we are able to have different media players from not only the traditional media houses in Uganda, but also the new media platforms come together to find ways, to find new strategies on how we can be able to build a media literate public and also sustain the media in the new era of misinformation. So I am really excited that we're going to have this conversation, and going forward, this conversation will just not stop here, but also make sure it continues to even reach that point in rural communities to enable them to make informed decisions. So the panelists, I'm super excited.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm really
what
super
about
excited.
you, Edgar? Who are you looking forward to?
Firstly, it would be you.
Well, here I am. He's trying to flatter me. I don't know why.
You are a very important human being.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb. But I'm also looking forward to Solomon Serwanja and the panel discussion. Solomon is a gentleman who flows wisdom. He gives you a lot of wisdom. So I always learn from him. I always want to listen to him.
No,
but also,
Solomon.
Yeah, there's someone special.
Solomon, if you're out there.
Solomon Serwanja. I think he already knows what he's doing to us.
Interesting.
Yeah. Also, I'm looking forward to Karina. Karina is on panel discussion. Karina she's the lady that trained me in fact checking in the first place. So I'm looking forward to Karina. She's a very knowledgeable woman. She has also trained me in training other fact checkers in South Africa. So I believe she is going to give people important information.
So for you, it's sort of a reunion for you in a way.
Something like that, you can say that.
You can't wait.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to that panel discussion.
That's amazing. Hey, Fiona.
Something like that, you can say that.
Yes, Caleb. Yes, Caleb.
Hey, Fiona. That's amazing.
How are you?
Hey, Fiona. What about you? What are you excited for today?
Yes, Caleb. I am really looking forward to two things. First, I'm just really excited to be here. MCI has become a second home, and it's a space that I've been in a lot in the past 2 months for the Content Catalyst program. So thank you, MCI, for having me here. And also, I'm really looking forward to the app. We'll be launching a very exciting app, which you have heard them talking about, but I'm not going to get ahead of myself. First, let me welcome you to MCI Media Hub. We are very glad to have you. A very warm welcome this hot but beautiful Friday afternoon. Please do take a moment, just a couple of seconds, to say hi to the person next to you. Find out their name. Let's get comfortable. This is not a conference style. Say hi to someone. Okay. I see now the vibe is coming through. This is a very relaxed space. Feel free to speak to the people next to you. Take advantage of some of these networking opportunities and have a good time as we learn. They've talked a lot about countering misinformation, which is a very vital part of what we'll be discussing during the media viability talks hosted by the good people at MCI in collaboration with Debunk Media and the US Mission in Uganda. Now, we have a very special person that's going to give us the official welcome, Mr. Simon Kakoza. Where are you? He's one of the co-founders here at MCI Media Hub. Some of you have probably already interacted with this space, but also the programs in this space. He's going to share with us a little something to get us started this afternoon. Let's put our hands together and welcome Simon. Okay, as he comes through, he's probably doing some important administrative general manager activities. But as he comes through with that, allow me to welcome you once again. We are very excited to be having these conversations, which, as the good people on the podcast were sharing, are very important for the kind of media community MCI is trying to build in collaboration with our partners. One of the important things that you'll see coming up a lot today is the app. A very special app, and unfortunately for Caleb, my co-MC, the app will not address opinions or ideas, but it will address facts. Are you hearing the news from your border man? Okay, if you're hearing it from your border man, okay. So if you are getting the news from your border guy, when you get home, fact check on the app. But let me go back to the studio with Caleb and Patricia to just share a little bit more about what we're doing here today at the Media Viability Talks as we prepare to have Simon join us as well as our guest of honor. Caleb, are you there?
Okay, sure.
Caleb, don't leave me hanging.
Hey.
Okay, how's it going in the studio?
Hey, so one of my friends just asked me a question on WhatsApp. He's watching live on YouTube. He asked me, who's your target, Patricia?
Okay. Our target audience is the different young journalism students in different universities. And we are also targeting the young people that access and use this media on a daily, but also targeting the potential victims who have been able to be affected by the perpetrators of the misinformation and disinformation. So we want to just not stop in Kampala for the people who already have this knowledge, but also through our partners, the Debunk Media Initiative, we shall be able to reach people in rural communities through trainings on fact-checking in the different universities across the country.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And Debunk, I just want to get a little bit into how you got together, because as a person who was in the fellowship,
yes,
you asked to brainstorm some of the things that you want to change as a journalist. So what attracted you to fact-checking? Because most people, when they're going through journalism school, they just want to become a radio guy, want to be on TV, so people watch me every night.
I know.
What inspired you to bring out something like the Debunk?
What really, how it came about was 2020. Remember the influx of healing remedies of COVID and things like that. So we realized there was a gap therein, and we were being trained in fact-checking during the fellowship itself. So as young people, we decided to start a fact-checking show. In fact, it was by the help of Media Challenge Initiative. So we started a fact-checking show at the time. It was just the Debunk show, saying this is accurate, this is not accurate. But we realized that the impact we're doing is a bit less. Yeah. So we wanted to create more impact. And by creating more impact, that means we did not only to just do videos, but to train people, do audios, do
Content.
podcasts. So it became wider, and we realized the problem is bigger, so why don't we become something bigger? And that was, by the support of Aga Khan and other partners, we decided to become a fact-checking organization. And from 2021 up to date, we've been verifying information, we've been training people, we've been producing audio content, we've been translating audio into the native languages of other people in other regions.
To make it accessible.
Understand them, to understand this information, but also to be able to verify information in their own languages, right?
Definitely.
So it has become now a big entity or something big, and it's growing by the day.
And in your journey, what is one of the craziest stories you've had to debunk?
Craziest. You're putting me on the spot here, because what may be crazy for me may not be crazy for another person. But we've done a couple of fact checks. I think there's a fact check that we did. It wasn't that crazy, but they're saying that most of the MPs come from a particular area in this country, which was the West. We tried to figure it out, trying to show them that it is not as accurate as it is. I don't know if that is interesting or crazy, but we've done a lot of fact checks, so I don't know what to choose exactly. Maybe you can go look us up at debunkinitiative.org, our website, and the Debunk Show on YouTube and all other social media platforms. You may pick your own choice.
That's interesting, because I'm also very curious as a debunker. Yes, I have had very many stories about aliens. Yeah,
interesting.
And not alien skin in Uganda, but aliens generally. And as a debunker, do you think this is possible? Are there aliens somewhere?
Maybe you ask me as Karuhanga. I think there's extraterrestrial species that are there in the world and outside the world in the universe. I think we're not alone.
We're going to have to debunk this using the app later.
This is my personal opinion. This is my personal opinion. So I think
and
there's life.
cannot be debunked. Okay.
Exactly.
Interesting. And as the head of partnerships,
yes, please.
Patricia, once again.
Yes, please.
What is the process of finding like-minded organizations when using projects? Because I understand it's not very easy to find people who are on the same journey, who are looking to have the same core values, same goals that they need to achieve. So what is your criteria in a way?
First of all, it was really easy for us to find like-minded partners on this journey, because the Bank Media Initiative, being that this is an organization that we worked with at the time when there were a project during COVID-19, we were able to do a number of fact-checking productions, like my colleague has already mentioned. And this was easy because we've been able to also, together with them, conduct a number of media literacy and information trainings. So while we looked out for that partnership, we also realized that the U.S. mission in Uganda is very key and very attentive to making sure that they support the different key stakeholders in Uganda through media development, to make sure that we fight misinformation and disinformation by ensuring they offer all the support they can to see that there is factual information through like different platforms, like the app prototype that we're going to be seeing later today, like my colleague has mentioned, but also to make sure that we reach the people down there in the last mile, in the last milestone, in the grassroots areas through trainings, but also not stop on trainings, and make sure that we can support these young journalists and also the students to at least access a small story grant that can then enable them to do evidence-based stories that can be published out there for access. And also, most importantly, how the partnerships really align is the fact that we shall also do like fact-checking hackathons journey, but most importantly, a platform for conversations around media viability and how we are ensuring a sustainable media at the end of all this. How do we then together say, as like-minded partners, the Bank Media, U.S. Mission in Uganda and MCI, how do we now tap into the existing society of media practitioners, professionals and journalism students, universities, to make sure that we have strategies that are new ideas on a way of making sure that we fight misinformation, but also create a media literate public and informed decisions.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because today more than ever, we need guidance on how we use media.
Yeah.
If you go through TikTok or any social media app, there's very many things that are happening around the world. And if you're not keen to attention, you could easily fall for a deep fake or unedited photo with a totally different story.
AI.
It's interesting. I work on radio, and I shared something last week whereby this particular AI program can change any song that you know and put it in another person's voice.
True.
So imagine what that can do for news.
Yeah.
If that's what intelligence can be used negatively.
Exactly.
then it means there needs to be equal efforts on this other side to make sure that we have debunked information.
Yeah.
That at a snap, I can actually go and check, is it true that this happened? When I see a story on TikTok, I can go and actually debunk it. But it comes back again to accessibility. Yeah. You said that you're expanding from the central to more regions in the country at large. I want to find out from you, what will this look like for you as a team? Because you may not necessarily go everywhere, but how are you making sure that you're having a ripple effect through everyone that will have had your audience?
Okay, first of all, I believe what you're saying is true, that it's not easy, but Rome was also not built in one day. So why we're moving to regions is that we want to inculcate a culture of fact-checking. Because bear me and you, some people do not even know what fact-checking is. Or some people have not even seen the value of fact-checking yet.
Yes.
And not many people know what is fact-checking. So we want to start that culture, teach students, teach young people, young journalists from those regions. And we hope that these journalists are going to debunk information, but also be trainers of other people. So it has to have a ripple effect. So we hope that we reach one, the one reaches another, and the other reaches the other. So by maybe years from now, let's say 10 years, we should have fact-checkers in every corner of this country, right? So it's something that it's an ambiguous challenge, but we are taking it on because we believe that people will learn. They will teach each other, and they will be able to verify information in their own communities, but also teach their community members, teach their family members. In the long run, I believe
there will be change at least.
Will have understood the most important thing about accuracy.
And the credibility.
And speaking about this particular project, what is the span? For how long are you going to be having the hackathons, the different capacity building?
Okay. So to answer your question, we are having a series of activities that we shall be implementing with our partners. And like today, we are having the first media viability conversation focused on misinformation and new strategies, like mentioned. After this, we shall be able to, within this year, plan for the trainings that we have to conduct. First, we shall run off with our debunk partners to make sure that there's a fact-checking training conducted. Debunk Media Initiative in Uganda. We'll be conducting trainings in the different areas of Uganda, upcountry, and this will be the first for this year after this conversation. We shall then sprout out next year to make sure that we conduct media literacy trainings that will be held here at the MCI Media Hub, which is a media entrepreneurship incubation center in Uganda. And we shall be doing this with support of external trainers and internal trainers to make sure that we have the young students access this training. So we will then conduct the other fact-checking hackathon in the other quarter of the year. And then we'll also have another media viability conversation happen, plus another fact-checking training. So they are spread out for a year-long period, and we'll be doing this together with our partners, but also together with the different media players and policymakers in Uganda.
Interesting.
And maybe to just add on what she's saying, what we're doing is we are launching a project. So right now, the app we have is a prototype.
Okay.
So it's going to be changing according to maybe the challenges found and also the opinions of the people who are going to use it. So it is a process, and it's going to be launched, I think, next year at the end of this particular project. That's when we launch the app. But right now, we already even had the first testing last week on Friday.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so,
I can't wait.
We're getting your feedback and trying to add it to make it better and, tailor it to what you want. And maybe another just clarity is we are Debunk Media Initiative that is based in Uganda. We are not partners with Debunk Kenya, no. They're two different
totally different
entities.
entities.
So we are fact checkers, and they're also doing their own thing in Kenya. So let's not mix this up, just for clarity of our audience.
Okay.
That's amazing. And it's interesting, because when you talk about accessibility, I'm imagining a student in university right now. They possibly have their phone 24/7, but for now, before the actual app comes out, what are the steps to actually debunk information?
Steps. So we have mainly 5 steps that we take. We identify the claim. So you first realize you have that curiosity in you, that is this accurate? It's not accurate. Then you find the original source of that information. So normally you might find it from a secondary source. You find it with Caleb, but Caleb got it from Edgar. So you have to track that information up to Edgar, where it came from. Then after you look for the evidence, so you realize this is a claim, and there might be something fishy about this information. So you look for the evidence that talks about that piece of information. So when you have that evidence with you, in case, so evidence can be data, it can be, information that has been published, reports and things like that. Then in case you need an expert therein, that's when you bring in an expert, because sometimes data does not speak for itself. So you have that expert with you. After you've written your fact-checking report, you've got that expert, you've got the data, you've got the claim and the original source, then you can publish it with the verdict. So you give a verdict that this is maybe accurate, this is false, this is true, this is misleading, this is overly exaggerated, and things like that. So you give a verdict, and after you publish and disseminate that information to the person first that you are fact-checking, but also disseminate it to the rest of the people. Yeah, but it's not as easy as you hear it. There are a lot of mini steps that are inside those
behind the scenes.
It doesn't sound easy, even with those.
that we should harness AI and technology to our advantage. As you said, there are some problems and challenges therein, but we can harness this technology and AI to our own advantage, because this is a computer that can work with a lot of data and information rather than a human being. So it can help you in tracking claims and things like that. So I feel, whereas it's a threat to professionals out there and to just the employment sphere, but it's still an opportunity that if we used it positively, we could get something better.
That's amazing. Thank you very much. And Patricia.
Yes, Caleb.
MCI has been around for 10 years, almost. What, when you look back, what are some of the things that you look back and you're really confident and say, okay, we did that? How many journalists have been through the program, and what are some of the things that you've seen that have been cultivated from that whole process?
First of all, like already mentioned, because we are an organization that prides in building the next generation of journalists in Africa, I really must say that we have seen this dream come true, because over the past 10 years, we've at least had journalists, over 3,000. 3,000 journalists go through our training programs, with our flagship being the Media Challenge Fellowship, that also saw the rebirth, the birth of the Bank Media Initiative that we're talking about today. And that's like one of our best impacts we can speak about. But also, most importantly, the other innovators in residence that we have here, the MCI Media Hub, like Citizen Report, Open Science, and Minority African Chikazi plus Nalo, which is a media innovator. We also have Solutions Now Africa, and these are all success stories that we can only speak about. But also, most importantly, we are happy to know that the different media houses across Uganda are now harnessing the work of Media Challenge Initiative through the ambassadors we have that are then employed as media professionals into these houses. And also, one of the things we pride in mostly is the fact that we've been able to tap into the spaces with changing the African narrative, which is by going to the direction of solutions journalism. By the way, this project here is also one of the ways to promote solutions journalism, because then we are helping people to fight misinformation and disinformation, which at the end of the day is also contributing to our goal of making sure that the African narrative is portrayed in a better way and different versions as opposed to how people look at it. So we are really proud that day by day we are walking this journey. And in the next 5 years, we intend to make sure that we have a better vision where we are reshaping the future using media.
Definitely. It's sometimes may come off as a joke, but the stories we hear, the things that we know to be the truth, really affect our day-to-day lives.
Exactly.
Because if you believe something that is wrong to be true, then what you will do will be misguided.
That's true.
Which I believe then makes it very important for us to be media literate, to understand what to take in, from whom to take it,
and when to take it.
When to take it in. And from that, Edgar, you have obviously crossed paths with multiple journalists. As a Media Challenge Initiative Fellow, you have also been able to get different training. And I just want you to juxtapose your training in university as well as your training as a fellow.
Okay. Thank you, Caleb. Let me try to juxtapose it in a more humble way that is not going to be demeaning to either side.
Okay.
The university gives you
Right, nobody panic.
life is changing by the day.
Yeah.
So the thing is, media challenge is training you, according and giving you the skills that you need right now. Right? So that is the advantage that media challenge has. That here, we are getting the right training, the training that we need, that is tailored to the information of today. Whereas
because what we're
the
discussing
universities, they're
today is
still on the other
countering
old school kind
misinformation
of
and how that
training in media.
impacts not just what
Thank
we
you, Caleb.
consume, but the communities we are in, the work we are trying to do, and the African narrative. So don't be shy, but feel free to put up your hand. I'm not going to do those things where I'm like, you, tell us. Feel free to put up your hand and share your thoughts. Could be anything. Maybe even have a question to some of the amazing people we are hosting over in the podcast space. Anyone? Can't say there's a gift, but we would love to hear what you think. Okay, let me come over to you. Hello, hello. Oh, you're looking, yeah, no, it's giving. Is that what the youth say? It's me trying to be young. Okay, please tell us your name and share your thoughts.
Hi, I hope they're gifts. I'm Bana. So, as the podcast people were speaking, what came to my mind, I was having a conversation with my neighbor. Sorry for putting you in the spotlight. One of the biggest purveyors of misinformation is TikTok. And this is for the the debunk team, but also for media houses and media people. There has been a very lax attitude to putting out news, debunking, but also fake stories on TikTok. Recently, there has been an interesting very lax Prime Minister, quote unquote, putting out news. It wasn't actually her, but also it was debunked on another platform. But recently, there has been 4,000, 14,000 times on TikTok. And because TikTok wasn't actually her, but also it was debunked on another platform. And recently, the algorithm sort of makes it very so that because prominent media houses or fact-checked information sort of comes at the bottom, and people with sensational stuff, with, oh, the Prime Minister has fallen or has done this, comes on top, yeah? And I want to know what steps have been taken, but also sensational stuff, oh, the Prime Minister has fallen or has done this, comes on top, yeah? And I want to know what steps have been taken, but also sensational stuff, oh, the Prime Minister has fallen or has done this.
You have brought up something very important, social media. The space we cannot run away from, the
Prime Minister has fallen or has done this.
Making that very important, but the rampant amount of space we cannot run away from, the
Prime Minister has fallen or has
I just want
done
to check
this.
if we have our guests in the podcast area connected. Or we run away from the
Prime Minister has fallen or has done this.
We'd like to know what is, what kind of role is debunk playing as far as social media misinformation goes. So let me just check with our tech team. Can we get the people in the podcast space? Social media misinformation. All right, let's give them. So let me just check another minute with our tech team. Can we get the people in the podcast space? I think that look means I'm giving them another minute. But you brought up some really interesting. So let me just check another minute with our tech team. Can we get the people in the podcast space? Let's be honest. How many of us are giving them another minute? Use of social media. Don't be shy, because I've done it too. Have you ever? Okay, let's say, have you ever gotten your news of social media? Twitter? No. You guys are, okay, I see my friends and colleagues. I think other guys are really doing this thing right. We love it because you're important in this space where we are trying to just improve the channels through which we are getting. I see my friends and colleagues. So as we wait for other guys are really doing this thing right. Reconnect. Love it because you're important in this space where we are trying to. I wonder if you'd like to share the channel through which we are getting. I see my friends and colleagues. So as we wait for other guys are really doing this thing right. Reconnect. Love it because you're important in this space where we're trying to, if you would like to share a challenge. I see my friends and colleagues just waiting for our guys to speak right. Love it because you're important. This space where we're trying to, if you would like to share a challenge. I see my friends and colleagues just waiting for our guys to speak right. Love it because you're important. This space where we're trying to,
just tell challenge.
I see my friends and colleagues just waiting for our guys to speak right. Love it because you're important. This space where we're trying to,
just tell challenge. Come on, come on.
my friends and colleagues just waiting for our guys to speak right. Love it because you're important.
Just tell challenge what we are hearing.
My friends
And to be able to get
My thoughts on this is that
just tell challenge what we are hearing. And to be able to so to veio tell challenge what we are hearing. It's exactly what and you want to Gambi, come down. So to veio.
We need to understand first and foremost that there's a certain level of responsibility that all of us must have to our communities, because to so many people, they run with this news, and to undo that is a problem, especially if you're dealing with a brand, you're dealing with regulatory issues. To undo all that where someone has a social media capital of, say, almost, what? These days they have 50,000 and above, and we're talking about the macro influencers and everybody trying to get their micro and macro and the big guys. So I think we need to look at this as a change, a culture change, a responsibility that makes you think twice before you post anything or before you put anything out there. But furthermore, to also check that what you are consuming is true without just taking it for what it is and, you know, spreading out sensationalism. So for me, that's my take for now.
For now, because we'll be talking to you later. But thank you, because when you talk about culture, I think you're also bringing in the issue of just ethics. You know, what are the ethics of engaging on social media? You know, it's such a free and unencumbered that what we are putting out is influencing the next person and the person after that, and ultimately, because in particular we're talking about news, you know, actual news, the type of narrative that we are putting out about Africa. Now, I understand that our guests in the podcast studio are ready to just join the conversation once again. Caleb, maybe let's just close our podcast session and then we can dive in to the next part of our program. Over to you, Caleb. Okay, of our program. I think that we are going to go ahead and close the podcast session of this.
Thank you very much, Fiona. It's interesting, the different thoughts that we have as regards culture all across into the different spheres of life, how information gets to affect the things that we do and how we do them. And with that note, I just want to thank you very much, Patricia, Edgar, for sharing and giving us a glimpse of what's going to happen later today, how we're going to go ahead with the rest of the MV talks. And I'm excited. I want to see what the app is going to look like, how it's going to work. And I know very many people are excited as well. Otherwise, Fiona, kindly take it away.
Thank you, Joshua. Caleb, and that's my co-MC for this afternoon. Allow me to welcome you once again to the Media Viability Talks this hot but wonderful afternoon. We're going to have some really good conversation and also get to be the first people to experience the prototype of a very special app that has been developed by our partners over at Debunk Media Initiative in collaboration with the U.S. Mission in Uganda and MCI. Now, I would like to invite one of the co-founders of MCI, Mr. Simon Kakoza, to officially welcome us to the Media Visibility Talks this afternoon. We have been having some conversations without you, but we're going to let you come in and just help us understand what we're doing here and welcome the good people that have taken off some time to spend with us. Welcome, Simon. Let's give him a hand clap.
Thank you very much, Fiona. Hello, everyone. Please clap for yourselves. Thank you very much for making it on time. The Ambassador, William Pope, our keynote speaker, Dr. George Lugalambi, the panelists and our moderator, and all you friends of MCI, welcome to the MV Talks 2023. Thank you so much for making it for today's event. It's my privilege and honor to stand before you today to be the one opening the Media Viability Talks with support from the US Embassy. And today we are going to be discussing media literacy, countering misinformation in this digital age. In this age of information, or the age of misinformation, there is a lot of information that needs to be checked, and it's upon us as young journalists to check each and every detail that has been shared online. And the need for information integrity has never been of importance or paramount importance than it is right now. In a few months, we shall be going for the elections in Uganda. The journalists that have offered coverage know what that means. The election period in Uganda is polarized with a lot of information, facts and malinformation, and we will be spotlighted as journalists. The public is relying on us to ensure high credibility of information, and so we must be prepared with the skills to promote information integrity. And as we have this project, the Media Literacy Project, will be paying a lot of attention to training and building the capacities of young journalists in local areas and communities in fact-checking. And we also have innovations such as the Debunk app and the Debunk bot that we'll be unveiling later on that will be used to ensure that there is information integrity in our community. Today, we, in our midst, are glad to have the ambassador. Let's clap for the ambassador, everyone. And his presence underscores the relevance of the topic of media literacy and fact-checking. Thank you so much for honoring us with your presence today, and to the family from the US Embassy, we want to thank you very much for supporting us on this project. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to welcome you and to open the MV Talks.
Thank you so much, Simon. We can give him just another clap for starting us off this afternoon. Information integrity, there has never been a greater need. I just want to underscore that because it really is at the heart of everything that we are going to be discussing, but not just discussing, the actual action steps that MCI, the US Mission in Uganda, and Debunk Media Initiative are coming together to work on solving. Right? So allow me to get into the next part of our program with a very special guest. We have with us all right, let us get into the next part of our program with a very special guest. We have the honor of having with us our guest of honor, the U.S. Ambassador to Uganda, His Excellency William Pope. Let's put our hands together as he comes to share some opening remarks.
Good afternoon. How's everyone doing? Good. Well, it's really an honor to be here. I want to recognize, to begin with, the Media Development Partners, of course, the whole team of the Media Challenge Initiative, all of you journalists and members of the media present here, and just everyone that is committed to transparency, to fighting disinformation and misinformation, and to making sure truth reaches people. It's really a pleasure in one of my relatively first activities in my first few weeks of being here in Uganda to be able to be here with you for this very important day, for the launch of this important app, and to support the Media Literacy for Young Journalists project. We gather, of course, not just to commemorate the start of this project, but also to acknowledge and address a global challenge: the spread of misinformation and the spread of disinformation. Both are potent weapons that can sway opinions towards falsehood, inciting unrest, preventing people from seeking treatment for curable diseases, and mislead even the most discerning minds. And we stand today, with all the advances that we have in our world, in the digital age, at a crossroads, where information travels faster almost than the speed of light. Whether that information, however, is truth or fiction, helpful or unhelpful, straightforward or manipulated, it all travels quickly, and it all has power. For this reason, the U.S. government is proud to support this important effort today. How to build a media literate public, and how to combat misinformation and disinformation that plague all of our societies. In a world that's actually overflowing with data, distinguishing genuine information from falsehoods has become an essential skill for all of us, one that every citizen must possess, but most crucially, for journalists to possess. While, of course, it's true in this day and age and all the forces that are out there that trust in media has seemingly declined, the media plays a vital, crucial role in pursuing, communicating, and disseminating true information. Media literacy is not just the ability to consume content. It is the proficiency to critically analyze that content, to ask the right questions, and to discern credible information from deceptive narratives. And this goes beyond simple fact-checking. It's about nurturing a culture of healthy skepticism, curiosity, and responsibility. And a free, fair, and responsible media is a cornerstone for any thriving democracy. Uganda, the United States, every country in the world. It holds the power, it holds power to an account, it informs the public, and it can drive positive change. But of course, in a rapidly changing information ecosystem, it is paramount that our media professionals, you all present with us today, are equipped not just to report the news, but to critically analyze and discern the veracity of the information that you all encounter. And let's be honest, this is very difficult to do in today's world of nonstop information flow and of actors that are purposely, in many cases, attempting to spread disinformation. And through this media literacy project, we aim to change that dynamic. We aim first to deepen the understanding of the difference between misinformation, which is false information shared without harmful intent but is nevertheless false, and disinformation, which is false information shared with the actual intent to deceive. We also aim, secondly, to equip journalists with the techniques to critically evaluate sources, discern biased narratives, and recognize digital manipulations. And finally, we aim to foster a commitment to journalistic integrity, emphasizing the responsibility that media professionals all have in shaping public opinion and the potential consequences of spreading unverified information. Moreover, we're also here to fortify our commitment to this cause. We are launching today, in support of these efforts, this state-of-the-art debunk fact-checking app to identify and debunk falsehoods. This app, we hope, will serve not just as a fact-checking tool, but also as an educational resource, promoting media literacy principles and helping users navigate the complex information landscape that we find ourselves in today. Journalists and citizens alike can utilize this app to verify dubious claims, cross-check facts, and stay informed in an evidence-based information ecosystem. The long-established partnership that we have between the United States and the Ugandan people has been built on mutual respect, shared values, and collaborative endeavors. And by investing in media literacy, we are hoping to not just fortify journalistic standards, but also strengthen the very foundations of our democracies. For democracy to work well, citizens must have accurate information about candidates and elected leaders. Citizens must be informed when elected officials are engaging in corrupt practices, affecting the quality of public services, and citizens must be able to trust their public institutions. The truth is that informed publics are healthier, they're more prosperous, and more secure. And those are things that we all want to achieve and advance. Before concluding, I want to express my profound gratitude to our talented partners, the Media Challenge Initiative, and everyone here who has championed the cause of media literacy. Your dedication ensures that our shared vision of a well-informed, discerning, and empowered public becomes a reality. I'm from the state of Missouri in the middle of the United States. There's also another Missourian that I'm going to quote now, Mark Twain. Mark Twain once said, quote, "A lie can travel halfway around the world before the truth can get its boots on." And I think he said that more than 150 years ago. That's never been truer than it is now today. With the right tools, however, education and commitment, we can ensure that truth catches up and prevails. And with that, I'm very pleased to join you in launching this Media Literacy for Young Projects project, the Debunk Fact-Checking app. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for supporting this effort. And thank you for all you're doing for freedom of information, freedom of press here in Uganda. Thank you.
Round of applause. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. It's been an absolute honor to have you and continue to have you for the remainder of the afternoon. Now, something that stuck with me that His Excellency just said is about how media literacy is not just about consumption of content. And earlier we were talking about social media and its role in this misinformation wave that we are experiencing worldwide. And I'm wondering, Caleb, what does media literacy mean to you? What does that entail?
I think media literacy goes past just knowing how to use your media, but using it in a positive way. That way, when you have your phone, when you're transferring any information to anyone else, you actually have you know that you have the responsibility as a citizen journalist, as a journalist, whether it's on your WhatsApp status, you know that you have a responsibility of informing people properly. No lies.
And not just the journalists, it's all of us.
All of us.
Even if you are just a consumer of this information, it's important that you have an ethical responsibility. How are you resharing this information? Are you sharing random pictures and giving them captions that don't fit? So literacy really covers everybody. It's not just people in the media, it's everyone.
I actually think my Boda guy should have been here. Why? Good. This guy tells me stories every other time, and he tells me different things about what is happening around the world. But if he actually had an app where he would say, is this true about Russia? Is this true about Palestine? Maybe he would tell me actual stories that are actually fact-based.
Oh, you're
so looking forward to that.
You're onto something there. So as we get into the next part of our program, I would like to introduce our next keynote speaker. We have the pleasure of hosting Dr. George Lugalambi, who is the Executive Director at the African Center for Media Excellence. Let's put our hands together and welcome him.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Ambassador Pop. Not to be confused with the Pontiff, so in the Vatican. So we need to get our facts right. So POP as in P-O-P-E-P-P, P-O-P-P. So thanks. So once again, good afternoon, everybody. Pretty much everything I might have said, the ambassador has very much touched on the subject. But I think I'll just re-emphasize one or two things. And it's already come up actually in the discussion here. The idea that if you're talking about media literacy, it's really about citizens and audiences taking responsibility for their own consumption of media and the consequences that come with the consumption of media and the consumption of information. And I think media literacy is really about changing the game, because I think oftentimes we've looked at media literacy from the perspective of the suppliers of information, the suppliers of media. So we talk about our duties and obligations as suppliers of information. And we talk about, by and large, predominantly, we've been talking about how do we, as journalists, as media producers, as content creators, how do we become, more responsible and smarter, suppliers of information. But with the proliferation of technology, with the proliferation of platforms, now that platforms are in the hands of people that we have normally approached as our audiences, the game has to change. And it's good now that the work that MCI is doing and the app, I believe, that will be launched is designed not just for we, the professional suppliers of information, but also, for the demand side of information, the people, the citizens, and the audiences that we produce information for. So I think to the extent that we can equip and empower, audiences and citizens and regular, members of the population to become effective, to become skeptical, I think we would have done the cause of media literacy a great deal. Now, we also know that technology has largely created, or rather has more or less either, let me say, bridged the gap, across generations. Because if you think about today, we talk a lot about young people, but some of the biggest, purveyors of misinformation and disinformation are not even young people, are people of my generation, people probably even, an earlier generation than mine. And because technology is now in the hands, of many of us across generations, some of the assumptions that we used to make about, who are the people that should really be targeted when it comes to misinformation and disinformation, as the ambassador defined these two concepts. We also need to be looking across generations. We need to be looking as well at older generations, because there is oftentimes a lot of excitement among these generations as well, among the older folks as well. And we should be also looking at them to see how effective they are and how competent they are in using technology, in using media for the different purposes that they access media. The last thing that I would like to say as well is that today we also know that, and we experience the fact that audiences are fragmented. There are too many of us, operating within our different echo chambers, and that makes it really very difficult to build and create a national consensus on many different issues that really matter to our existence and matter to our functionality as citizens. So if you look within Uganda today, many of us have retreated, into, the political spaces where we are comfortable, have retreated into cultural spaces where we are comfortable, and we oftentimes, speak, to ourselves. Oftentimes we speak to, even when we have a message, we oftentimes, as they say, preaching to the choir, preaching to the converted. And increasingly, because of the ease, with which we access these platforms, where we've become lazy, to do the critical work, the critical thinking work that will enable us to reach out, to people on the other side. And I think that is something we need to be working on. I think that is a message we need to be emphasizing very strongly in the debates and discussions about media literacy. That how do we get people to talk across the divide? In Uganda, it can be extremely frustrating, sometimes listening to the debates in Parliament. Someone brings up an issue, human rights violations, violations of, of people's freedoms, and you can almost predict that the response is going to be, across, political lines, even on issues really that should unite us as citizens, as Ugandans, but we often bring, a political lens to those issues. And that is, of course, also happening, not just in Uganda, but also if you follow politics. Ideology has become, a very, very big divider in terms of, the way politics is practiced across the globe. If you think about some of the conflicts, the geopolitical conflicts, all the conflicts across the globe, you can almost predict the response by sort of doing a little bit of homework about, the political, how someone is politically positioned. And I think from a media literacy perspective, again, that is one of the areas we need to be working at and working on to make the point that we need to be, to be really well informed, to be critically informed, is also, about not focusing on confirming your pre-existing biases, but also, exposing yourself to contrary information, exposing yourself to contrary points of view, and even if it's not really that you're going to embrace those points of view, but I think as information consumers, we are all the richer, if we can draw our positions by considering a diversity of perspectives, a diversity of opinions on whatever issue that interests us. And I will conclude simply by reiterating that for us as professional information, or let me say as information entrepreneurs or professional information creators or content creators, the main gospel that we have to be preaching first to ourselves is to verify. I can't, emphasize enough the importance of verification. The work that Debunk is doing is verification, but oftentimes that is verification, at one end of the spectrum. But how do we also look at verification at the beginning, of the spectrum? And a lot of the work that even my own organization, the African Center for Media Excellence, does is to work with journalists to verify, to understand that journalism and information, the practice, of information, has to be knowledge-driven. We have to be, we have to have a command of the subject matter that we choose to cover, that the subject matter that we choose to be, the basis of the content that we create. And so the art and the science of verification are something that we need to be taking very seriously as content creators, as journalists, and as information entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. George, for those very wonderful insights. It's interesting. Some of the words that we're going to hear a lot today are verification, responsibility, and he hinted on something that is quite interesting, the echo chambers. Stopping, us as journalists, stopping the laziness so that we can break these echo chambers, and also to debunk before we wait for the other end of the spectrum to check whether our stories were correct. For us in the very beginning to check with them and find out is this really true? Is what I'm saying, what I'm spreading, really the point that should be spread? And then one of the things that my lecturer used to say a lot was, there's always another side of the story. But more often than not, there are very many stories. And as journalists, we need to listen to all of them to actually find out what exactly is the truth. And coming up next for our next conversation, join me and welcome Mr. Solomon Seranja, who will be our moderator for the panel discussion. He is a Ugandan award-winning investigative journalist, executive director of the African Institute of Investigative Journalism. He holds a master's degree in journalism and mass communication from Makerere University. In 2019, Solomon won the BBC Komla Dumor Award, a prestigious honor to Africa's top journalist of the year. He has an incremental experience of 14 years investigative reporting and broadcast journalism as a whole, having worked with national, regional, and international media. Mr. Solomon, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you very much for having me today.
I pray that one day, when they invite me, they'll read all of these things, say he has, and in 2023, he did. It's quite interesting. And one of your very outstanding works is Stealing from the Sick. And very many people, how many of us have watched it? Yes, and most of them loved it. Maybe my question to you, Mr. Solomon, is how do you feel? Do you think there's a spot in heaven for you, having Solomon, for the work you've done?
That's quite a hard one. Loved and hated in equal measure. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that answers it. There are those that appreciate the work. There are those that, don't appreciate it. I think particularly that story, sometimes I just want to put it behind me. Because just about 2 months ago, I was in a supermarket shopping.
Okay.
This woman walks to me and she says, the blood of that guy who died, who committed suicide, is on you. So it really hit me hard. And I had to breathe in and out, and I just walked away. Because I think one of the people who was implicated in that investigation committed suicide and left a suicide note. So imagine it's, how many years? 4 years? 4 years
later.
Yeah. Someone still walks to you and tells you that. So investigative journalism comes with a lot of mental health challenges and all that. So you want some of those things to
get behind you.
But
are you backing down?
The thing is, the most important thing is how that story impacted society. I know that after that story was aired, the European Union gave government of Uganda a grant to come up with technology to follow medicine to the last user. I know that the National Medical Stores does not only have the mandate to procure and deliver, but they also now go ahead and follow that the medicine is gotten by the last person in the last village and that it's consumed. There is systems and technology that has been developed to follow the medicines. The president has also led different campaigns since that investigation to push back on stealing medicines. Yeah, so that's how sometimes storytelling is.
And you're not backing down, you're just continuing, right?
Yeah.
Should we look forward to something?
Through
with
you.
A title like...
Through journalists, through young journalists like you, yes.
Thank you very much, Solomon. And as we get started with this particular point, could we have some of us come and just come closer to the fire so that when we speak, the warmth comes closer to you as well, yeah?
Thanks a lot. May I just invite some of you to check the seats, especially Christine. I can't see you, my darling. Come and sit right next to me here. And yeah, sometimes it's not good to have empty chairs. There's a seat there. Yeah. Come, Karibu here. Come and sit close to me. I may get the blessing of 30 years of broadcast. Christine Mawadri, thank you. Once again, thank you very much. I must say that I'm super, super, super excited to be here this afternoon. I bring you special greetings from the African Institute for Investigative Journalism, but I cannot emphasize the efforts and the work that Media Challenge is doing. When I had young people in the studio really discussing journalism, I felt so happy. My heart was warmed up to know that there's someone who is taking over us. As Christine really winds down after 30 years, there's young people coming up to take that place and fill that place. As JB is living into the academia, There's young people coming to take up that space as editors, as Charles Bichachi is also preparing to leave the newsroom. There's many of you who are actually getting that energy to carry on the mantle forward. Can you clap for MCI? And I think there's no greater joy knowing that journalism will continue after these big giants have since left, right? So clap for yourselves again, many of the people in this space. Share my love, and I mean, all of us here want to love on you once again, the team at MCI. Can you stand up, and we appreciate you. Some of the top leaders at MCI, stand up, yeah. Thank you for the tireless efforts that you put in to ensure that journalism thrives. So, speaking of journalism, today we're super excited to be speaking about media viability. We're going to be talking about countering misinformation and disinformation. We're going to take a historical look and walk back in time on how journalism was and how it is and how the future looks like, but also the responsibility of some of us in the journalism space to shape narratives about our communities. So I'm really, really, really excited. Let me just get direct to it by introducing my panelists today. We have one, I love all this panel. You know, I'm seated amidst greatness. I have Charles Odobo Bichachi, public editor at the Nation Media Group. Charles, you know how I feel when I'm seated right next to you. Charles has done journalism. He has been a sub-editor. He has been a chief editor. He has done everything. So guys, we're seated with a giant in the media space here. Charles Odobo Bichachi, thank you for coming. Yes, and I just pray that you get through his hands if any of you ever get the opportunity. We have John Baptist Imokola, doctor. I need to add that. Dr. John Baptist Imokola was my boss. He was the chief news editor, yes, at NBS Television. And he used to tell me, Solo, you said you're working on an investigation, but when is it? I said, please hold on, it's coming. I'm done with you. We have to put it out. JB right now is assistant lecturer at Makerere University at the Department of Journalism and Communication. Let's love on him, another big name. JB has worked with WBS, has worked with, I mean, his CV is so long. I was given this paper that has people's CVs, so they'll excuse me that I've not really read all of those. Christine Mawadri, all of us grew up, yes, please. We all grew up listening to this beautiful voice as we really fed off that microphone for years. Christine Mawadri has 30 years in the broadcast industry. Let's celebrate her once again. Christine right now is the head of business at NRG Radio, but also is the chief editor at Nzu. You're doing a great work, Nzu, very, very great work. Have you guys visited that space? You need to. It's an amazing space for content creators and for those that want to do podcasts, for those that want to do, you know, recording and all that. It's quite an amazing space I've just seen on Christine's social media. So amazing team we have here. Let's jump right into it. And it's good to see you, Doc. Thank you very much for the work that the African Center for Media Excellence is doing. So it's really, really lovely to see you. Julian, I also see you. Let's stand up and we also appreciate you. Julian leads the team at NTV, at the Nation Media Group. It's good to see you, Julian. And of course, thank you to all of you who made time today to come and sit, and we sit and talk about journalism and everything that it is. So really super excited. I'm also happy that we're going to be launching today that application. I mean, I am really excited and I can't wait to see how it all works. Let's get right into it. In the next 2-3 years, we will be going back to the ballot to shape our democracy. All of us know that the internet or social media indeed has become an arena of political showdown as different camps come together to show support. I think we saw that more vivid in the previous election, where people really they went to the extremes to mobilize support for their different parties. And with that comes a lot of information. And the people in the political circles have understood that information right now is consumed on the phone. Many of us, our phones are the last things that we see, and they are the first things that we see. When you're going to sleep, you put your phone on charge and then enter bed. When you wake up, you grab your phone and go to the toilet. Some of you are guilty as charged. And then you start your day on the phone. And so that really speaks about how the landscape. That really goes to the fact that the media landscape has changed. I also need to welcome our online panelists. Today we have Karina Van Wyk, who is a sub-editor, trainer, and content developer. She's also a journalist working with Africa Check. Thank you very much, Karina, for joining us, and she will be speaking live for us from South Africa, so we'll be having her. We'll also be joined by Betty Mbayo, a Liberian freelance journalist, and she's also the co-partner at The Stage Media in Liberia. It will be really great to hear from what's happening, Betty, in Liberia. All right, let's start off here from Uganda and just get the feel or the fire of the media landscape. Let me start with Charles Bichachi. Charles, you've really been in the past, you're living in the present, and you have a forecast of the future. Could you perhaps paint for us a picture of the changing media landscape in this country, and also try to relate that with the level of trust that people in this country have in as far as the media is concerned? Charles, karibu. You have a mic. Oh, there's a mic there. Thanks.
Thank you, Solomon. You make me the real fossil. I think 2 fossils here. And I am really very grateful to be here. And I'm very, very impressed. I'm very happy, especially about the issue of media literacy. Every day of my life for the last few years, I've been trying to do that, to just let people know what the media is and what it does and what it can do, what it can do. So now to your question, how has the media changed? What was it before? What is it now? Where is it going? When I joined the media, 1992 is when I left university and I wrote my first story for the Daily Monitor, which had just started September 6th, 1992. And I've never stopped doing it since then. News, the media was the only avenue for news. When something happened, everyone, first of all, we didn't know what it was. News filtered in slowly, maybe by travelers, by bus, by taxi. Then eventually you'll hear something happened somewhere. And then the media will try to double check, and then it comes into the news. So a lot of the news that was being published was old news, was not instant. The other day we had an attack in Kasese. It was out there before it was in any mainstream media. In the past, it would have taken a few days for that to come through. So the media in the past was slow, was not instant, but it was trusted because then there was Radio Katwe, which is the whispers. Have you heard this? That was the Radio Katwe. Then the mainstream media, which had to verify, radio, television. So if somebody had it on radio or they saw it on TV, then they trusted it. So Radio Katwe was also a synonym for rumors. So that was not trusted. But the news in the mainstream media was trusted because it was expected that the verification had happened. Of course, now a lot has changed over the years, and now the mainstream media comes later into the news. We have had the Fourth Estate, which was the very powerful, trusted. Now we have the Fifth Estate because technology has enabled the emergence of the Fifth Estate. The internet, when I think in '96 in the newsroom, you used to dial. Internet was by dialing. Then it will come through. Now it is here. You just need to load data. So it is available to everyone, and that means that everyone has become a journalist. The gatekeeping role has been opened and liberalized to everybody. So the gates have been opened, great thing. But when you open the floodgates, what do you get? The crocodiles come through. The fish comes through. Everything. The boulders and the stones. So now then you end up in a situation where we are today, where we have so much information. We have so much information that we don't know whether to trust that information. So while the mainstream media now, the trust has reduced because, true, not all the information was coming out. So when the floodgates opened, everyone became a journalist, we realized that the media used to withhold information. Behind the gates, they don't give you what they want or what. Now everything, we get it, but then we don't trust it because then we also get fake information coming in. So that's where we are today, I hope.
Thanks. While you're speaking, because I know that many of the people on this bench have been editors, so they know exactly what they are talking about. That sometimes content would come and they play the gatekeeping role and they have their reasons why they would block some stories, even if they had all the elements of journalism, and allow others to go. Whether, they know, all editors know that they make decisions based on so many things. Now, like what JP said, or Charles said, the public then begins to say, oh, but mainstream media is not giving it to us. They're not giving it to us. So we all then run to social media. When we run to social media, we get it all, right? But there's also pressure that builds up in the newsroom. Why is it trending online and you don't have that story in your news and in the papers? Let me come to you, Christine. You've been in the thick of it. You've been an editor. You've been a presenter. You've been there. Times are changing. And how are you managing to keep up with that?
That's a very interesting question. And interestingly, it's also the reality. Social media is here. The digital age is upon us, and there's absolutely no way we're going to separate one thing from the other. First, we have to understand this, that it's here to stay and it's here to grow. However, how then do we work with it? Recently, I was privileged to be a panelist on another forum, Women in News, and they were talking about shaping the new newsroom, the new age newsroom. What does this entail? Are we going to stay with our traditional way of managing newsrooms, or managing the resources, the reporters, and the sources that come in? Or are we going to embrace the digital divide and say, we are going to work with you, so that we're also moving in that general direction of the new media or the digital age that's upon us? However, that being said, I am of the thought and school that structures are very important. Whatever it is that you have learned in your media schools, that structure, that basic, that foundation is very important for you then to build on to what you will bring to, say, the public, your work, your brand as a reporter. Because that structure is what the ethos of journalism is all about. So, to the newsrooms. We used to check news like, practically taking the story to a ringer. He's laughing because he knows. If a reporter brought in a story or we got a lead, there would be about 3 or 4 people around this story to verify different aspects. One goes to Parliament because you need to get the constituency, whoever is responsible. Then the other goes, of course, this one has brought the news in from the scene. Then the other goes to maybe another aspect of this whole story, maybe the place, maybe it's police, maybe it's army, maybe whichever. So that's our way to verify that indeed what's going out there is true. And also to get the different aspects of the news so that the brand can represent integrity. And we all know that there are news brands that I won't mention that didn't care about integrity. Do we all know which one this is? Anyone want to put their hand up and own this problem? I'm not going to mention, but we know a tabloid or tabloids that then create this foggy way of, let's just say a foggy impression to the young, impressionable journalists who want very quick money, quick quick fame, quick everything. So we need to go back to the structure. The newsroom manager, how are you actually empowering your teams? Are you working together? Social media has come. Are you going to use these, because anyway, even if you want it or not, that reporter is probably the first person sending out news through another pseudonym, out there. So how are you going to bring them together and say, guys, our brand is about integrity, and we want to stand apart from the citizen journalists. In that way, then, we create news that goes out, and we are known for it. And then I'll sometimes ask myself the question, is it still a profession where you feel it's honorable to do the right thing? I say, yes, it is very honorable, because you need to shape the culture. If the citizen journalists start to see how it's done, like for instance, there are many of you who like Solomon, because Solomon is doing the right thing. His integrity is up there when he's reporting. So you want to be like Solomon, which is a good thing. You want to be inspired by Solomon. But you too have to be that reporter that seeks inspiration from many others. Because there are so many other journalists in the make-believe. Those are the citizen journalists who will say, I want to be like so-and-so. I want to be like so-and-so. We need to start creating a culture that does that, and that starts in the newsrooms. So first thing in the morning, which are the lead stories? Who are the groups that are going out to the different places to verify this news? How is it being crafted, tailored? How is it being written? How is it being drafted? And who other person besides the editor is going through this before eventually goes to the chief editor, and then, it's given a tick to go out? I think if we can think along these lines, I know it's a lot of work, think along these lines and see how we can start to craft a culture around the digital era and these structures, because old school is not such a bad thing. We then can start to shape a culture in news, and who knows where this can go.
Yeah.
Am I answering anything? I like to listen to my voice, so I can talk the whole day. So you need to tell me to stop.
You actually have answered the question. I just needed to top up on what you just said. So we have these systems that have really founded different newsrooms. But the pressure is also coming in from social media and brings in the aspect of speed versus accuracy. There's so much pressure that the story has been broken online, and you're under a lot of pressure to really go through this and go through the very fundamental structures that are supposed to be doing fact-checking when the story is all out. How do you think that same structure should shock absorb itself from that pressure, from social media, and be able to do the fact-checking before that information is put out to support the credibility of the media house?
I think that am I allowed to say that we are also in the age of sensationalism? Am I right to say this? Whereby we should try and think outside the box, in the sense that if a story comes out and it's, it's got quotes, it might be true, it might not be true, and there are all these factual things going around, fact checks, and I think it would also make a lot of sense for a brand, a news brand, to actually delve into that very story that came out as a false story. A false story, to say, okay, so we are going to feature this story that, that came out, and it's a false story, but this is what we found. They must be brands that are ready to do this, because in such a way, you demystify false news. In such a way, you're also saying, we as a brand are not afraid to go out and face this creature called false news. There's got to be a component in the newsroom that says, this wasn't right, this was right, and then push it out there. So I think it's a change of mind. It's really a change of mindset. Am I answering you?
Yeah. Christine, thanks. Christine Mawadri there. Let me just turn off to John Baptist a little bit here. Oh, JB, okay, there's the mic. From what Charles is talking about and Christine, the media landscape has since changed. The question is, has the academia changed in the way they teach journalism? I mean, when we were all growing up, we started, of course, there was the fundamentals, the theories of mass communication. Anyone here who didn't love that topic a lot? Theories of mass communication and everything. Is the academia changing with the changing trends of journalism, with the new innovations that come with technology, misinformation and disinformation? JB, you teach journalism at Makerere University. Have you adopted a new curriculum or changed the new curriculum to train a journalist to face the current challenges in the media landscape? John Baptist.
Thank you very much, Solomon. First of all, it's not a matter of whether we should or if we have. We must, because the times are changing. Things are moving. So the universities, the training institutions, the academy has to adjust. That is the starting point, and there are no two ways about it. Now, back to the core of the question, have we done something? I think something has been done already. The institutions are starting to respond to this need. So, for example, recently we developed a new master's program at Makerere, and one of the courses there is social media management. And one of the core topics in that course is on how you can deal with the issue of fake news, malinformation, misinformation, and disinformation in the social media. So there is something that is happening, but I must say that it is not enough. There is still a lot more to do because this is a big problem. So there are still courses that have not changed. So, for example, our courses are required to run for 5 years before we go back to the National Council for Higher Education to update them. So there are some courses that were recently approved and they have to continue that way. And so the lecturers sometimes just adjust and say, okay, we are going to talk about fact-checking, and talks about it maybe in 30 minutes, and that is not enough to address how big the problem is. But also, the reason why I'm very happy this afternoon is about this project that the US Embassy and Media Challenge Initiative are embarking on. Because you cannot teach what you don't know. So even if the curriculum changes, even if what is in the papers changes, what about the people who are training these people? And that needs to be addressed as well, and we need as training institutions, but generally as development partners to look into it. How do we reskill the trainers so that they are able to deal with the new dynamics, with the new challenges? So, yeah, some of us were there before, and yeah, we look at things like TikTok. What is happening there? That is something new. That is for girls probably to show us what fish they are eating and where they have gone out today. But then we actually, for us to be able to train these young people on accuracy, on verification, on dealing with fake news, we need to understand how these platforms work. And then lastly, beyond the curriculum, beyond the universities, I think that it's important for the institutions of learning to go to the public as well. Community engagement. We've seen that, yes, you might have very good editors, you might have very good journalists, they are fact-checking, they are verifying this information, but what about the public? Are they media literate? Are they able to ask these questions before someone posts the video of the alleged video of the Prime Minister? Before a member of the public does that, we might have very good journalists, the systems that Christine is talking about in the newsrooms, they are working perfectly, but what about the public? Because now, where digital media is taking us, we cannot ignore them.
Yeah, certainly. We just cannot. You mentioned a very interesting point there, that it's also important that we train the trainers. I mean, they were trained under a different system. But you realize that many of our lecturers are those that, were trained through that system, you know. But things are changing. So it's also important that they are retooled and remodeled. And also we bring on board new blood that now understands fact-checking. So JB, I hear you. Let's go and talk to Van Wyk there. Where are you, my dear? Van Wyk, are you there? Let's see. Do we have her? Okay, great. Good to see you. Thanks for coming through. Van, fact-checking, and I've seen some of the work that Africa Check has been doing, amazing work. You've been leading on this front to remind journalism that you need to fact-check, especially as the digital era comes in. I just noticed that the BBC has now come up with BBC Verify, where they literally are just doing the fact-checking and the fact-checking and fact-checking. The media houses in Africa are slowly coming to the reality that they need to put up a fact-checking desk because they can't rely on the system, the old system that Christian was talking about, but things have also changed now. We have artificial intelligence, we have, you know, people coming up with all these things, misinformation, disinformation. How important is fact-checking in our day-to-day journalism, especially on the African continent? Van, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And I'm so excited to be here, having trained a whole bunch of people from the debunk. So I'm so excited to also take part in the talks. So how important is fact-checking for journalists? I mean, that's the essence of journalism. You only have your credibility. And so verifying the accuracy of the information you put out there it's vital. It's absolutely vital. And what's also important is that we still, even though we do fact check information that's in the public domain and we publish fact-checking reports and so forth, we encourage journalists to do internal fact-checking within their newsrooms to make sure that the false information, the dis and the misinformation doesn't get out there in the first place, because otherwise we're playing catch up and we're trying to stop the spread of this false information, while if fact-checking was done internally before publication, before broadcasting, then we wouldn't have to fact check this information. So I would really say it's vital, and that's also why the relevant training is vital. Many of my fellow panelists have touched on the importance of training, and then specifically also citizen journalists, and basically encouraging them, and by showing that we practice accurate journalism, we're encouraging them to do the same, because they're not simply consumers of information anymore, but they're also sharers of information. So training is really a very big part of that. And then also taking that media literacy, or what we often refer to as misinformation literacy, teaching journalists how to spot misinformation, teaching also from a young age, from school-going age, teaching high school educators and journalism lecturers and students how to spot false information, which questions to ask, how to critically think about the information at hand, so that we can create a generation of responsible media consumers, and creators of media, and then media consumers or media users. So I would say it's absolutely vital.
Look like in the era of artificial intelligence and everything that comes with the misinformation and disinformation. The tools and techniques too are changing, and it's important that journalists keep up with the latest tools of fact-checking, and therefore the need to invest in such trainings. Van, do you want to top up on that?
Yes, Simon, sorry, I missed the first part of the question. I got the last bit about tools and how artificial intelligence have started playing a role in creating misinformation. So am I getting the gist of the question? Okay. All right, great. So yes, I think investing in training is definitely vital. In terms of artificial intelligence, we can use it. It has pros and cons, or your advantages and disadvantages. So we have worked on a tool where we use artificial intelligence, for instance, to identify claims, to fact check. So in that way, it can actually help us to do our work faster. But then on the other hand, as you were saying, also artificial intelligence, the technology is becoming smarter, but the principles are still the same. And there are a lot of free tools that you can use online, and there are just some skills and just being aware of the techniques that are used to spread false information that you can also apply, whether you're looking at your ordinary, if I can call it like that, dis and misinformation, or whether you're looking at images or videos that's been artificially generated. So you would ask the same question if you come across an image or a video on the internet and you think it might be an AI generated image, or the information accompanying the image or video. The same questions, and you'll look at your news sites. Your news sites to see if the news was covered, and then also just in terms of that. There are still things that AI is not getting right. So you can look out for details in the hands, hair, eyes, ears, sometimes you'll see people with 6 fingers in an image that was created by AI. So the basic questions that you ask stay the same.
All right, thanks a lot. We're having some feedback, so if the team can help here. But thanks a lot, Van, for that. Let's go to Liberia and speak to Betty Mbayo. Do we have Betty online? Yes, just wanted to get a heads up. Do we have Betty online? All right, here. I will wait for green lights on Betty if she's online. But let me come back to the conversation here. Charlie, she's on. Okay. Oh, Betty, it's good to see you. Greetings from Kampala. I hope Monrovia is okay. You're a journalist, you're a foot soldier, you have encountered all this information when you're in the field, and the pressure of the newsroom to break the story, but also to be able to output a story. These are real challenges that when you're writing the story, with the pressure that comes in from the editor, fact-checking is key. I would love to hear from you your experience as a foot soldier in as far as managing the pressure, but also making sure that you tick all the boxes, that the information that you put out there is right. You're welcome, Betty.
Thank you. Thank you. Am I clear?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So from Liberia, I would say thank you very much to MCI. When within our local pidgin, we say thank you, yeah, MCI. So my name is Betty, and I've been a journalist for over 9 years plus. And I will firstly say I started as a volunteer, and then a corp reporter, and then a reporter, and now a co-partner of a fact-checking institution. So it means that yes, I have been to and fro with the journalism career. But with your question, I would say that it is kind of stressing, most especially in a digital age wherein there is a proliferation of social media and users, and a proliferation of spreading of misinformation and disinformation. But I would say, as a fact checker, you want to be sure that you do not have to correct what you have uh, uh, disseminated to the public. Yes, of course, that there is a correction protocol, but you as a fact checker must consider speed versus accuracy. Do you just want to publish an article or a fact check report because it is widely spread, or you want to get the information correct? So I would say that as a fact checker, you cannot forget that you have the ABCs to uphold, and that is an accuracy, balance, incredible. Yes, time is of the essence, but you need to ensure that what is being disseminated is verified within time and with the right sources as well.
Let me just take you into the real scenario of a newsroom. Someone comes with documents in an envelope, sends them to you, they come with your name, Betty, and you really get this information, and they tell you that you need to look through this information and get the story out. Sometimes there's then pressure that comes in that, of course you have to get into that information, you've got to maybe check through the sourcing and everything. In reality, because I've practiced journalism as well, in reality everything is going on so fast that you want to get the story out, you want to fact check it, you want to do everything. There's pressure. I think JB here knows the pressure that always comes in from the editor, especially when you share this story tip with the editor. And so that's my lead story. You know what happens. I think Charles was also here, is smiling and saying, what do you do in your space? And I know you touched a little bit about it, but I wanted to get that juice out of you because you're speaking to an audience of young journalists here who are going to face the similar pressure of they have a story, you have to run this picture through Google reverse search, for example. You have to get into open all these applications, all these tabs to really check the video and cross-reference it. There's too much pressure to write the script. Everything is happening so fast that you just have to do what you have to do in your means, using the different tools that you have. What advice would you have to young journalists in this room if they are confronted with such pressures?
Okay, great.
Betty.
So it's just very simple that you cannot be carried away by the pressure and feed on the ignorance of the public. And I want to specifically write on that because our country is currently in a space of elections, and we have a whole lot of misinformation and disinformation. And I would say that if such a package arrived at my desk, I just have to be reminded that I must firstly consider the impact and after such a report is being done. Am I concerned about just getting the information out, or I'm concerned about and how can I educate the public in ensuring that they make an informed decision? So you as a journalist have to be reminded that the public rely on you for an accurate information, for a credible information, and they rely on you in minimizing the harm of false information as well within the public. So yes, all you have to do is to be reminded that you have to be ethical no matter what kind of content is on your desk.
All right. Betty, thank you. Betty Mbayo there speaking to us from Monrovia. Betty, thank you. Betty is a freelance journalist working with different media houses. Let's just come back here. Charlie, let me come to you. There's been conversations that newsrooms need to start a fact-checking desk specifically there. And I know that some people have argued that's the work of editors. Their job is to do fact-checking. But also to dot the I's and cross the T's. Charlie, fact-checking desks, specific. We have a fact-checking desk that before any story goes out, it has to be fact-checked through the systems, through the technology, through everything else. Would you support that to build the trust of, to rebuild the trust that the media house needs to maintain its credibility? Charles?
Yes and no, because first of all, even before this, this era of fake news, the role of the editor is to do the gatekeeping. You're the gatekeeper. So in the DNA of the newsroom, that must be embedded in. And at the Monitor, we used to have a special fact-checking desk during elections. But it's not to fact-check the content that we are putting out, because that must already be checked. It is to help the public make sense of everything that is being thrown at them. If the politician says Uganda got independence 200 years ago, is that true? So we pick that out and say this is not true. Or, so essentially to check the information in the public domain. So it's important to have special platforms in the newsrooms to help check things which are being thrown around. But to check the stories, the system in the newsroom must be already configured to do that, to keep checking. And you see, when it comes down to trust, whether the public will trust the credibility of the media, how do we lose or win trust as media? We win trust by how we cover a story. We win trust or lose trust by how we treat the subjects of our stories. Are we fair? Are we balanced? Are we accurate? And then we also win or lose trust depending on how we respond to feedback. I have had people who have, where journalists have made mistakes. We make a lot of mistakes, and we write terrible things or broadcast terrible things. And we realize that it's a mistake we made. But if we come out and correct it, if we come out, if somebody has raised it and we say, sorry, we made a mistake, we retract, you win trust. If you don't, then you lose trust. So I think we just need to go back to the ABCDs, the code of ethics, the truth, the facts, the balance, the accuracy, and then to have these systems embedded at every journalist. Because if the reporter out there in the field is not applying those, they are bringing the pressure to the next level to have to do what they should have done. So it needs to be put down to everybody, from the one who gets the story to the one who finally signs it off. Previously, they used to call that the stone editor. That's the last sub-editor who signs it off. So that fact-checking needs to be at every level. Otherwise, if you create complacency and you create an artificial intervention, which will not help. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Charles. I just noticed that our time is really running fast, and I would love to give an opportunity to some of you to ask questions before I can come back to my panel to give their closing remarks. Do you have any questions? You have a question, I'm happy to give you a microphone to ask the big giants in the room on issues of media viability. Any questions from the young journalists and the people in the room? Yep, we have a question there. Any other? Okay, so you have either, oh, there's another one. Okay, great. There is also another one there. Okay, Karibu, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. My name is Ruvimbo Kore, and I'm a fellow here at Media Challenge Initiative. So my question will come from this angle. So us who not understand the impact of citizen journalism when we are in Uganda, because we portray Uganda from this viewpoint, yeah? But then if you go to Kenya and you hear what they know about Uganda, that's when you realize that we have a problem. So as young journalists, we are competing with these people. What can we do as journalists? Because it feels like policy makers are not yet there. Because I feel like journalism should be practiced by journalists, because we understand the effects of misinformation and disinformation. So as big giants who are going to leave this mandate on us, what do you think we should do to help ourselves? One, stay with jobs. Two, heal the disease of misinformation and disinformation. Thank you.
Citizen journalism is a runaway train. But we'll get the experts to say something. I hope the experts are writing down those questions. Yes, sir. Karibu.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Mwanja David from Center for Media Literacy and Community Development, same code. And I'm the community liaison personnel for same code. I have two questions. One, we have a challenge because a lot has been spoken about the newsroom, but less has been spoken about the reporter or the reporters, because all stories begin from the reporters. What is the content being given by the reporters? So here my question comes. What can be done? Because most of the stories now are basing on personal entities. Maybe let me take an example. We have a community, but in this community, people are suffering, or maybe land is being grabbed from the community members. But if the big man in that community who is taking away the land gives money to the reporter will come and take the story. If the big man has not given the money, that story will take 2 to 3 days to be aired out. I work with the communities, and we move there, and you find a situation that in some area, people are being tortured, but there's no one to report. But they will tell you, even reporters have already been here, but just because there was no one to give money, the stories were not even aired out. So, and the stories have been moved from being communal to personal. The big man has given money. The second question. We have radio stations. Let me take an example of radio stations. Deep in the rural areas. They have good journalists. They have good reporters. But you even feel that when times come, maybe to applause, maybe I've ever attended several awards. But it is very rare to find a reporter being awarded when it's from deep the radio station? Is it because these people are not marketed? Is it because they are not known? So you always find that people to be given awards are from big stations.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I think those questions are clear. Okay, we have Dorothy here. Can we get the mic to Dorothy? Thanks. Then I'll come to you. Thanks a lot. The aspect of reporters being paid money to kill stories. I think the other aspect is celebrating community-based reporters. Okay.
Thank you, Solomon. I'm excited to see the big names, the Christines, Charles is here. I think my general concern is how do we get the community to be media literate? We could train the journalists, we could train the editors, we could have all these apps. But how do you get a farmer in Kapchora, deep in Kapchora, I mean, whatever they listen to radio, I mean, is gospel truth. How do we make them media literate? That they get to listen to a story on radio, but ask, is this true? Or if they get something on WhatsApp, they don't take it as gospel truth. They have the ability to check and question before they consume it the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dorothy. How do we take it to the community and support them to know that this is a fact, this is not? That's interesting. All right, 3 more, and then we can come back to my panel. Yes, Karibu.
Hello. Okay. Hello, my name is Muhammad Matovu, and I'm a journalist at Next Media, to be particular, Nile Post and NBS. We have talked about the issue of engaging the community in fighting fake news and all that. But my question is, how best can we engage the community in fighting fake news? I'm wondering how best we can really engage them. Thank you.
I think that's in line with what Dorothy is saying. All right, yes, Karibu.
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Vincent Chisiriko. I work with Radio 1 and Kavos here in Kampala. Colleagues, thank you for the modulation and everything. But I have only 2 concerns. The first one is about the mindset of the tutors or media trainers. I happened to have a lecturer who never entertained a WhatsApp message, who never entertained an email, who always wanted to be either written to and a letter posted in her, box as a means of communication with her. Now, with that mindset of a trainer, I wonder how us practitioners and people who are doing this game of training journalists can really penetrate these minds, because they are the bed for our industry. They breed us this crop of journalists who are emerging every day. But their understanding of things, their context, is still at that. Secondly, how are we going to address the excitement? I've been in the newsroom for some time, and my worry is about the crop of young journalists who are excited and very adamant to advise. I think it's influencing fake news, because if you take a pan through what's happening on social medias and what's queried, it's from a crop of journalists with a certain behavior. I don't know, now that it's in this media tutoring, maybe training and publishing entity, it's something that needs some redress if we have to really go about it. I don't know how we can do it, but I think I throw it to my tutors who are also here, because some of them have been lecturers before. Thank you.
Interesting. JB, are you on TikTok? Are you on Instagram? Are you on YouTube to be able to teach people? Or do you want these documents and letters into your mailbox? All right, thanks a lot, Vincent. I enjoy your section on the morning show on Kavozi. Thank you very much, Vincent Sidiko. I had just one more question. Yes, Karibu. Oh, there was also another one too. Yes, ma'am.
I am Namiganda Jael from Metro Radio. Yes, we have a problem with technology, especially the social media. for spreading misinformation. However, we also have a problem with our editors. The issue of breaking news, you will be in the field and your editor will call you, I need this story. And they need the story ASAP because our news runs every top of the hour. So you as a reporter, before you even verify the story, you just have to give the story to the editor. I don't know how we will go about it, but editors have been a very big problem to us, the reporters.
And the editors are in this room. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I had a hand there. Karibu.
Thank you so much, Solomon. Once again, good afternoon. My name is Patricia. I work with MCI. I think for me today, this conversation is really important, and I've been able to pick key insights from the different panelists today. However, I am really keen to understand how we move beyond this conversation in ensuring that we build a resilient audience that then will be able to fight misinformation, because then we really do a lot of work as journalists, like it's been said, but then we have an already eroded public that is lost trust in the media. So how do we take this back to our media houses and also involve the media managers, but also how do we commit to continuously ensure that we fight misinformation and make sure that we get to the end? Thank you.
3 things. One, you talked about empowering the public, but 2, rebuilding the trust in the media house. The third one was?
Basically, it's around making sure that we commit to making sure the media managers continuously involve themselves, because I know we have fact-checking desks in the newsrooms. However, how about we just go beyond these fact-checking desks and make sure that we have a sustainable media through these conversations?
Okay.
Also involve the policymakers.
Okay, quite, thank you. 1 minute and 1 minute, and then we can, more hands. All right. Yes, ma'am, shoot.
My name is Faima Ibrahim. I work with MCI Radio here. I have a question, 2 questions. The first one goes direct to the lecture, assistant lecturer at Makerere University. As a lecturer, concerning on the side of this cause of journalism and mass communication in general, have you found a way out maybe of putting this cause of fast-checking, like how to handle fake news within the student? Because remember, you are the one teaching the student to become better journalists. But how far have you done? Because me, I'm a journalist, and I've been studying. I've never had any course regarding how to handle fake news, how to deal with them when you enter in the field, all that. I've come to hear it here in this Department of Debunk. That's what I've come to hear. But if I could had it when I was studying, it could be much helpful. So how are you going to help these young youth who are going to be in the field to deal with this? So I think you need to put more effort on this, and so that it can put this cause within it. Maybe it can help out. Another question is, how can fast checkers work with newsroom? It will go to any giant here.
All right, the giants have noted that, especially Giant Imokola. Do you have fact-checking as a course unit at school? All right, we'll have 2 more, and then we'll be back. Yes, you have the microphone, and then we have him. Oh, okay. Yes, Karibu.
My name is Brian Biarohanga Tumwine, working with UBC TV. Mine is, can silence be a response to misinformation and disinformation? I don't want to sound so controversial. I'm just asking you guys.
Christine, when you hear something which is not true, is it better you keep quiet and it fades away, or do you want to speak to it? We'll come back to that as we continue. If you just joined us, we are discussing media viability at the MCI. All right, we had 2 more hands.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
My name is Tracy Kansime. I am working with Nalo Foundation. My question goes to any, again, giant in the room. My question is, yes, we want to debunk misinformation and disinformation, and yes, journalists might actually be trying to do this. But we also live in an era where access to information is not a luxury in some instances. I'll give you an example of, we have quite a number of polarized stories. We have, for example, the kidnappings that are happening, and one side says 30, and another side says, we don't have that person, or we have that person. How do we navigate as journalists and media practitioners, how do we navigate situations where we do not have access to that level of information or clearance to that level of information, yet the public is still not in the know of exactly what the truth is in instances like that? Do we let it go? Do we let different sides say what they want? How do we navigate tricky situations like that?
Editor Charles Bichachi has noted that down. We just have two more, please. Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Deborah, fellow in the MCI fellowship program. So I experienced this during my internship. You take a story to an editor, and then they will tell you, okay, do you know what? If you write it in this way, it will make more sense, or it will make more, it will make the people read it more. I don't know what your editors always consider, but me, when I go to get a story, I want to get it as it is, because those are the principles we're taught in school. But now you take a story and they tell you, no, you have to write it in this ways, in a certain way, so that there is more readership or there's more viewership of the story. And now me, who has written the story, I feel like it's losing sense, because when I read it, it's according to how you want it. But me, who has come with the story, I don't see how it is corresponding to the meaning I got when I was in the field. So about that, how the editors help us who are preparing to come in the field to actually stay with our principles we have learned from school and go with it, instead of also falling in, following you guys, what you always tell us to do in the newsroom.
The ever-unending fight between reporters and editors. That will always be there. Thank you very much, everyone, for those questions. You'll allow me to just, you have the mic. Okay, you have the last say at this.
I don't know if it's good evening already. My name is Namakula Mariam. I work with the News 24/7 online. So my question my worry is, in a digital era, or in a digital space, like we are appreciating right now that social media is all over us and we can't run away from it. How then do we draw a line or strike a balance between, let's say, a reporter who has a big following on social media, even at times bigger than their media house, and they would break the news and get like more attention, even more than their mother media house? How then do we strike a balance there? Because some of us would really, or the community out there would really take this as a gospel truth, even before, let's say, NBS breaks the news. Kanari Mugume already has the news and it's all over out there. So how do we strike a balance there? Because are these people taking the shine, or is the media houses still on top of their games? Thank you.
That's all we had from you. Thank you very much for your questions. It's the time for the giants to respond to those questions. Let me start with Charles. Charles, your reaction to some of the questions that have been raised.
Thank you. These are, I think I'm happy you guys are interrogating the issues that are really very, very important in the media space. And I have been grappling. I have no answers for many of them. And some of them I've been grappling with them. I'll start with the last one. The celebrity journalism and the celebrity journalists. And a lot, what I should say perhaps is something one of you raised. How do we distinguish ourselves between we journalists who are trained and any other funny guy out there with a phone, with a smartphone, you know? Because there are people, there's a mechanic, there's a border guy. He can't treat anything. So what is the difference between us and those guys? The difference is that we have ethics. We have a code of ethics that we are supposed to follow. But I am afraid that I see a lot of celebrity journalists doing no better than border people, throwing things up there. And so that is the challenge that we face, because we are all led by this thing of likes. So as people who have been trained, we need to go back to the code of ethics. The medium has changed, but the rules have not changed. They are the same as they were 100 years ago for journalism. So it's just the medium which has changed. So I think it comes down to personal ethos. And also, media houses have a social media policy. I know the Nation Media Group has one, whereby you're guided. What you do online should be the same as what you can do on your platform. Or I mean in the paper or on the broadcast. So it shouldn't be different. So if you can't publish that story, if it can't pass the test to go into the paper or to be broadcast on air, don't post it on your social media account. So that's what we need to do. Whether it is followed, that is another matter. Julian is here. Maybe he leads a team and he grapples with these issues. Maybe I'll pick out the other one is embellishing. The lady who has moved away. Embellishing stories. That you change this angle. This will attract more. I think Christine talked about a certain tabloid, which used to embellish stories, because then you want to entertain, and if you mix news and entertainment, if you want to turn news stories to win clicks, to win likes, to win all that, then we are not doing journalism. So I always encourage reporters to stand their ground, because the editor is not in the field. You are the one who has been in the field. You have got the story. So you say, this is the story that I've brought. Of course, some editors will then not run it, and perhaps you won't get paid. But once all the editors get to know that that's your principle, and I'm sure there are process of appeal, then you will become, next time you will actually become the editor, because then you appreciate the gatekeeping better than the one who is trying to tell you to embellish. I think the other one is how can fact checkers work with the newsrooms? If you've been following news, you find that almost every year or the other year, they have been laying off people. So newsrooms are very, very thin. And yet, they require this service. So I think the opportunity is that fact checkers can actually get paid by news organizations to perform this role, so that if something comes through and the editors need to check it, they refer it to you. You have maybe an hour or two to check and come back to them, and you get paid for it. So I think there's an opportunity there of collaboration. Maybe I should leave my colleagues to address the others.
All right, let's bring in John Baptist Mokola, doctor.
Thank you, Solomon. And to those who have asked the questions, I will take on some of them. Now, on the issue of trainers, to Vincent and the lady who asked about her hearing about fact-checking here, I already said in my presentation that this is not something that we are going to change within a short time. It's a campaign that we should all get involved in. So there are some institutions that have started the journey. Can we continue the journey now? So beyond saying this is not working, Can we come up with proposals? What do we need to do? How can we change it? And together we can improve things. And that's why I said the campaign that the bank is getting into with the US Embassy is a welcome move. That can we now target those trainers who either don't have the skills or who just have a negative attitude towards the issue of fact-checking, so that we can support them with the skills, with the knowledge, and then we work to change the curriculum as well. The other question was to do with the reporters, those who get money and all those kinds of things. I think Charles has put it clearly that if it is journalism, it is journalism. The basics remain the same. Verification, our ethics, accuracy, not taking sides. So if there is someone out there who is getting paid to publish some story or to kill some story, and they are claiming to be journalists and doing journalism, we need to rethink that definition. And then Dorothy had an interesting question. Now, some colleagues call it okwebereramu. I hear people using okwebereramu a lot. Now, in this country, our constitution mandates the Human Rights Commission to do civic education. And I think that media literacy is supposed to be part of the civic education that the Uganda Human Rights Commission should teach every Ugandan about. But because it has not taken on that responsibility, it has always talked about the lack of funding and all those kinds of things, we need to ask, what can we do, either in our organizations, but also as individuals? The starting point for me is, can the media itself also start the fight and actually do media literacy? In the programs, instead of shouting Ronaldo and how many goals has he scored and which ones he has missed, okay, that's fine, that's okay for some of us. But can we also have programs on media literacy? Sometimes we have journalists here, we have editors here, we are talking media literacy, but when we go back to the newsroom, we are doing stories of accidents and road crashes, and tear gas and all. What about the issue of media literacy? Can we make this an issue that we need to deal with? And then bringing in the communities. So Dorothy, from the perspective of the trainers and the institutions, I said the universities need to get out of the lecture rooms. We need to engage the public. We can have dialogues. We can have these programs on radios and on TVs. We can publish on this issue. And we set the agenda and talk about the issue of fact-checking. But also, can we target some opinion leaders? We are in a country where opinion leaders in terms of religion, in terms of culture, in terms of politics, are listened to, and they are able to influence how people look at things. So if we are talking about fact-checking, yes, and I think it was Patricia who asked the same question, we can move it from here. Today we are here, we are talking about it, we are setting strategies. What else can we do? Can we move out to the Kabalagala community maybe next week and have a dialogue with the community members and talk about the issue of fact-checking or generally media literacy?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. JB. It's a wrap.
Yeah, that's okay.
Christine?
Wow. The giants in the room have practically covered everything. So mine is just to come and throw a few darts to what has already been said. I'm very passionate, Dorothy, about changing the mindset of communities. And this is how I see it. When we have a pandemic, Ministry of Health is out there knocking every door in every media channel, at every stop, talking about this pandemic. If it's time to immunize families for yellow fever, you remember the yellow fever campaign? That one happened so fast. I mean, As soon as you did this, everyone was in Ambole. So my mindset here is thinking, or my mind is thinking, perhaps as the journalists communities in the different tiers, be it the academia, be it the radio stations, TV stations, all these places, is there a way that we can go to the regulator and say, listen, how can we work together? How can we work together to change the mindset? Because it is a problem. And His Excellency Pope said something very interesting about fake news. He said it can actually affect people and make them even more sick, as we saw from COVID. Everyone was reporting whatever they wanted. So the mindset change, I think, needs to start at, all the way from the institutional level downwards. But we also need to find a way to push in and say, we are happy to take the tab a bit. If, for instance, somebody talked about a radio station in the rural area, who was it? Was it you, sir? Yes. This is your time to shine. If you want your radio station to shine, start educating people about literacy. Start doing something about media literacy, about fake news. Let you be that community that stands out. Which radio station is it again? Okay. Okay. If it's a small radio station, say for instance in Kagadi, let Kagadi be known, Kagadi FM, I'm just giving, let it be known for being a change maker in the news. And that way, a small radio station can create an impact and open the way for bigger stations to think. And we're not only talking about radio, we're talking about TV, we're talking about many other things. So, yes, I know, Dorothy, you're going to say, Christine, it's a dream, but it can happen. We can start small. The way that we push polio campaign, the way that we push COVID, the way that we push all these things, the journalism and the media industry needs to also push back and say we need to be hard on certain things so that these young people here can have jobs, so that they can feel honorable in what they're doing. I've had 2 questions here asking about what next for us. What next for you? Create and change the culture. Be that station, be that reporter, be that news editor that says, I'm going to do something a bit more than just getting the news and pushing it out there. Let me have a feature every day to talk about fake news. Let's start there. Let's have a feature every day verifying something. Let's start there. And then we can grow. About having jobs, I can tell you, you will create jobs for yourself. The way the world is shaped, especially with digital, the new digital era. During COVID, we saw shops move from downtown to phones. How many people are still shopping on their phones? Hands up. I'm still shopping on my phone. COVID, we've done and dealt with it, but something new happened. There's a new sweep. You can do the same. You all need to be the people that keep yourselves in the jobs by doing things differently. Social media is here to stay. How are you going to embrace it? I talked about this in the beginning. I said there's the structure, and then there's what's now here upon us. How do we make the two meet? Have we answered everyone's question in this room?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. Thank you. Van Wyk, do you want to make answer any of the questions? Van, are you there? I just wanted to draw you in to see if you can come in and respond to any of the questions that have been raised.
Okay, yes, so I'd like to, yes.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Betty, do we have Betty?
Yes, I'm here.
It's easy to forget
Are you hearing me?
The guy's online. Speaking of online, there's a question.
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Okay, great. Do you want to speak
Yes.
to some of the questions that have been raised?
Yes,
Betty?
sure. Yes, sure. So there were a few things that I took a note of. So I will speak from the background of a reporter first, and then I move on to how fact-checking content can reach to community. So the first thing is that instead of reporters seeing it like probably the editor, I will just quickly advise that before a report or probably an article is done, I think it's advisable to and have a discussion with the editor on what specifically you will want to write on, which of course they will probably advise you on specific angles or what are the angles you have in mind. So I will advise that reporters should see it like a coordination angle with their editors, and that will somehow safeguard the institutional policy as well, and also maintain the integrity of the institution and the journalists. And on community and engagement. So, like for our institution, we come from a country that has less than 44% of citizens that are literate. So our fact checks are moved into our local pitching, wherein it's not specifically for those that are literate, but it's also considering those who may not understand the formal style or let's say standard English, but will somehow understand the local pitching. So, and then there was an issue raised on navigating access to information. So, a case study for Liberia, you have limited access to information. So that within a fact-checking arena, we will have to move to an explainer wherein we will have to speak with expert sources to explain what specifically is this issue and how should the public address it. So we all understand that we are in an information stage wherein there's a proliferation of media institutions at the same time as social media users. And as all of the speakers have said, there's need for institutions to, or let's say for the journalists to consistently and increase the media literacy content that will enable the public to make informed decision. And I think it's also something that we as fact checker should try and involve into our daily lives in educating the public on different things around education, around health, and so forth.
All right. Betty, thank you. Betty Mbayo, sorry, we lost your voice there.
I'm here.
Which is sad. Okay. Van, you're also here. I just wanted to give you a minute or two to make any responses. You're welcome, Van. Karibu, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks. What I was trying to say earlier was that what Christine said was music to my ears about radio stations actually reporting on media literacy or making their listeners aware of media literacy. So nothing prevents journalists, as she was saying, to do a story on, or to do a story about dis and misinformation, or an insert about misinformation that has been spreading widely on social media, say for instance over the past couple of days. And then while creating awareness about false information that is busy spreading within communities, also giving your audience a few tips on spotting dis and misinformation and questions to ask before you click on the send or the share button. So at Africa Check, we work with many radio stations across the continent in media literacy campaigns, where we also get them to air some of our media literacy content. And we've also trained a number of journalists who then created content around fact-checking and around dis and misinformation, and shared that with their audiences. So so that's what I wanted to add about creating awareness around dis and misinformation and equipping your audience with the skills to spot it and to not share it. Thank you.
Thanks, Van. Karina Van Wyk there from Africa Check. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. And I hope you picked a thing or two from the audience as well. Thank you very much to my panelists today, the giants online and here. Charles Odobo Bichachi, thank you very much for making time. Dr. John Baptist Mokola, thank you very much as well for your insights. Christian Mawadri, thank you very much for those submissions. And we cannot wait to feed off your palms. Please make sure that you always come through when we're invited so that you can speak to us at a deeper level, right? How many of you enjoyed? Did you learn something today? Did you learn something today? May I now pass the microphone? Can we love on our panelists today? Thank you very much. May I pass the microphone to Fiona? Over to you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Solomon. It's been such... Feel free to keep clapping. I feel like I caught you midway. Thank you so much for guiding us through a really insightful conversation. Adaptation, Caleb, adaptation. Solomon so beautifully wove the theme of adaptation throughout our conversation. You know, social media is here, all these different things are here, they're not going anywhere. We have to adapt, which Definitely. I think is a beautiful segue to our next program item.
Exactly. Personally, I believe in proficiency, making things easier for all of us. And when it comes to fact-checking, we're not redefining what journalism is, we're instead making it easier. And coming up, the next segment is going to be quite interesting. Because now, on our phones, we'll be able to make journalism easier for each and every one of us to see which story is actually factual or not. And we'd like to welcome you to the screen, where we shall have a small video.
Perhaps as the team prepares that video, we'd like to just say thank you once again to the partners that have made this possible. MCI, just providing these spaces to have these conversations that are so relevant. I think that's really a theme here, conversations that are relevant, but more importantly, creating interventions out of those conversations that really are impactful, so we don't just keep our conversations here in these rooms or with these people or even with the online audience. So thank you, MCI. A very, very big thank you to Debunk Media Initiative, who are also at the core of what we are about to witness, this app, just bringing this digital era in here and merging that with the need for integrity in the information that we are sharing as media. And also, very important to thank the U.S. mission to Uganda that have been very integral to this process. We really appreciate you. And perhaps also just to recognize the representatives we have here, Ms. Ellen Mercy and Dorothy Nanyonga. Thank you so much for staying with us and for being part of this process. Over to the media team, let's shift our eyes to the screen.
The fuel prices have gone up. Do you know why? It's because of the Hamas and Israel war. In a world of ever-changing facts and views, we all need someone we can trust to tell us the truth.
Cheya, kwendi naye chili Gaza, Israel bagikute idol mwana, erisaawa yonna ndi ku ndege blood, tugenda mu vita. Mama, leka nsooke nkujjemu tulumbe Gaza.
Who will you trust? Are you looking for verified facts from trusted experts on democracy, health, climate change, and other topics? Double-check the craze that you come across for trusted information using the Debunk Information Verifier. Are you curious? Do you need verified information? Are you seeking clarity? Visit the Debunk Information Verifier. Let's navigate the media maze together.
Navigating the media maze together. So I'm going to invite someone who is going to help us really understand this cool video that you've seen. So it's not just a cool video. So with us today is Bella Twine. Please come over and join us up here. She is the interim CEO at Debunk Media Initiative. There she is. Give her a warm clap to welcome her. Karibu to the chair where the important people were sitting.
Thank you so much.
Are you feeling as important as me up here?
I feel very important sitting next to my lecturer, and I'm very excited.
We love that. Intergenerational conversations are so important. So we just want to understand this app prototype that we are launching today. So just tell us, what is this app?
So the Debunk Information Verifier is an application. First of all, it's a prototype at the moment because this is a year-long project that we have with the Media Challenge Initiative and the US mission. So just to fast track back, as a team, we've had conversations around AI and also how are we able to make sure that AI misinformation is being fought by AI tools, right? So AI is here to stay, just like Kristen said. These things are here to stay, and they're growing bigger and bigger, and there's no way that they're going to go anywhere. So we have to make sure that we're moving in a direction where we are working with these tools to make work easier and faster for journalists, but also for fact checkers. So one of the conversations we also had earlier in the year was around AI's misinformation in the age of social media, and also just understanding how are people able to use those tools to fact check misinformation. And we had conversations with Dr. Sarah Namusoga at Makerere University. We had conversations with Daniel Mutembesa, who is at the AI Research Lab in Makerere, and as well as Adekunle, who is in Nigeria, and he does very amazing work and uses AI tools. And we've also had conversations with Africa Check, and we just wanted to understand how do we use these tools in general. So this platform is an application that we are building to have experts in different topics and conversations in climate change, health, democracy and politics, and all these other topics that are around. And we just want individuals to engage on the application, ask questions and get answers from the application, especially with experts on this conversation, so that they're not getting information elsewhere. It is safe to say that the application, unlike any other browser, is trying so much to have only factual information and not just every information that is out there that is published online. So we are sieving out the misinformation and only giving the user the factual information. Yes.
Thank you very much, Bella. Maybe the other question would be, which everyone is thinking right now, how does it work? Do I have to get verified at some point? Do I have to pay a subscription fee? How exactly does the app work?
So the application is free of charge, and just like I said, it is a prototype that is going to be worked on throughout this entire year, and we will hopefully, God willing, invite you again to unveil and launch the application at the end of the project. Yes, but it's already downloading on Kristen's phone, and that's okay. So we really enjoy feedback, and we've had our pre-test just recently, and we've had amazing feedback from different individuals. We've trained journalists from NBS and SANU and all these other media houses in fact-checking, and we invited them to also give us feedback as journalists. How would you want to see this? Daniel is over there from Rocket Health, and he was really useful in giving us feedback on how to integrate different tools within the application. But it is free of charge, and once download, there's no subscription fees whatsoever. And one of the things that we really wanted to see is how journalists can also use this tool. So we have a newsroom segment there, and journalists are able to put their scripts in there, and claims will pop up. In case you have a claim within your script, it will show, and so you're able to verify.
So in case I have some misinformation in my script, I can just upload it and get to know whether it's right or not.
Yes.
Interesting.
It's fascinating.
Editors might be fired.
But we have to work together. It's not a one-man job. We have to work with the editors as well. So we really hope that we get to interact with them.
Because you mentioned at the other end, there's professionals about the different topics that actually debunk these different facts. Okay?
Okay, this is fascinating. I think the next thing is just show us. Please show us, how does this work?
Okay, so there's a camera over there, and our developer, Emmanuel Ahawe, is ready to show us. But in the meantime, I'll just say that we are looking forward to your feedback. In case you have the application, just continue feedbacking us, and we'll be able to make the necessary changes.
Okay, Karibu Emmanuel.
Thank you, everybody. Don't know if the camera is already on the application.
Okay, let's just give it a second.
Sorry,
there we go.
it's a phone. So what we're looking at, the homepage of the application. We have different features, but the major one that I'll start on is people are able to, you have a question, and there is this question you have. There is a bottom text box down below that says ask a question. If you just scroll through, these are the questions people have already asked, and with the responses. One of the questions people were asking was, is it real time? So let's just ask a question. Can anyone help me with a question that we can ask? Who is the Prime Minister of Uganda? So you basically have, you post your question, and you can, if you have more content about the question, you can elaborate. As we will show you later on, it's integrated to the different channels, that is WhatsApp and Twitter, X. So questions can come from that side as well, and to the central platform. But let me just add something. I want to know who the current Prime Minister of Uganda is. Maybe today, yes. So I'll just, there's a section down here where we ask you to target topics. So we have topics for now. So let's target under democracy. This is for purposes of the AI categorizing. And so we post. Once you've posted the question, it just appears there and you'll see the status. Currently it's saying bot check. It's under check. Once you receive the answer, so what happens is we have the verifier going around the internet, and we have different sources that we've categorized as factual. So it's a model that we're training. And ultimately, we want to, once you ask this question, we're giving you the expert opinion that is currently set. So depending on the topic. So let's see the answer we've just got. Just tap into. So I asked who's the Prime Minister of Uganda. I just got an answer. The current Prime Minister of Uganda is Robina Nabanja. She was appointed. She was appointed by President Yoweri Museveni on June 8th, 2021, and took office in June 2021. She's the first woman to hold the position of the Prime Minister. Nabanja is a member, so it gives you a bit of context. She's a member of the National Resistance Movement. NRM party and served in various government positions, including Minister of State for Health, General Duties, of Karamoja Affairs. She's a graduate of Uganda Matters University and holds a Bachelor of Democracy and Development Studies. So what you see here is we just posted a question, and our verifier went around getting the condensed, digested answer from what we call expert opinion to you in real time. This is one of the major features of the verifier that we're working on. We're training this model, feeding it with what nurtures our editorial policy. So if you actually see, you'll see people can interact. There is a section under here where we're asking write an answer. And this is specifically for experts. So we are categorizing, picking out experts in different fields, and there are the ones who can answer specific questions. At the moment, we also have talks of bringing the community to have a discussion, but for now, the answers come from either the verifier that is speaking expert opinion across the internet for you in a condensed form, or an expert who has been registered on the platform can still answer. Now, one of the features that is on the roadmap that will not show here is that once this question is posted, we have certain experts who probably are very active, let's say on X, on Twitter, and may not have maybe quick time to just come on the platform here and answer. So the verifier tags them on their platforms. Let's say you've asked maybe a question around democracy. So we have maybe experts who've tagged as these are democratic experts, or people who can give an answer in that particular. So this question will be posted on X, and they are tagged. So when they give an answer, it comes directly here as well. So you have real-time condensed information across the internet from different experts we may not know, but you also have real-time answers from experts that are registered. Here on the platform, they can answer the question directly or on their favorite platforms, wherever they will be. Let's say it could be WhatsApp or Twitter or X at the moment. We have a voting section where people can vote. This is towards the rewarding system that we're still building. So this is the major. If you see on the top panel, you'll see the different topics that are featured currently. If you tap on any topic, we just give you a list and a feed that has been going on around that topic. And you can see what people have been asking, and you can share in the conversation. Yeah, you can search. It has a very good search system. But the major aspect is you're getting this expert opinion and in real time. So the more this verifier is trained, currently we have this prototype working at this level. The more it's trained, we're targeting to make it the fact check that we actually nurture here. You see, so that's really the major aspect. So at the bottom, there are other layers. If you see, there's fact checks. This is the history of our media and fact checks that we have. So you can go through and peruse and look for a story that we've covered and get answers from there. It's a bit exhaustive. There's a lot there. So all the content that we fact-checked can be found there. There is a newsroom. So this is where you have a story, you doing your research. So you just upload your story here, and at the moment you paste the content, and the verifier will check it for you and tell you, whether it has any misinformation or disinformation, or it will verify the accuracy. So I don't know if I have a story, but basically you just paste it in here, whatever you've come up with, and then you tap start check. We will check it for you and give you the results down here. So this is the newsroom at the moment. Yeah, so that's the gist of it.
Okay, wow. Yeah, we should be clapping. Ladies and gentlemen, Emmanuel has given us an in-depth look at what this prototype is looking at. It's very impressive, just seeing the different angles it's hitting, whether it's the newsroom angle or just me, the regular person who wants to ask questions. So, wow, I think it made that quote of perhaps you are created for a time such as this very relevant. Perhaps indeed you are very relevant in this particular time of media literacy and the importance of it. And so we'd really like for you guys to be able to ask questions. Maybe keep in mind that, as Bella shared, this is a prototype and there's still a lot of work that they're going to put in, but this is just like a sneak peek of what this is going to do for us, what it's going to mean for media literacy, not just for people in media, but communities as well. So please feel free to ask a question. If you can put your hand up, we'll bring a mic to you.
Thanks, and I think it's a really good initiative. I've already put in a question and the answer came through how many referral hospitals are in Uganda. And it has come up impressively, given you all of them, I list, so that shows it works. However, there's a concern. I've spent the last 3 months going down a rabbit hole of several AI applications, and one of the things that tends to come up is the training data that these kind of apps have. And you mentioned that you are training it with certain experts and sources of information. I'm just wondering how rigorous was the process of choosing which these experts are, and also considering the fact that this is a fact checker, odds are the questions are going to come from so many places. How then do you have that background data or sources, like you said, from which these answers are going to come? I think, yeah.
Okay, so verification. Would you like to take that, Bella?
Yes. So how we are gathering our experts. So at the moment, the project started in August, September, and at the moment we were trying to get these things in line, and we hadn't yet reached out to experts entirely. We had reached out to a few individuals who we knew that once they are on the platform, fact-checking would become a bit easier for the application, but also for the team. One of the things that we're looking forward to doing is doing background checks and also reaching out to the experts directly and having that conversation with the experts before we actually put them on the platform. And how we're training our data model is that the more factual information the tool is fed with, is the more it will feed back factual information. So we're trying to limit it getting information from Google, from all these other browsers. So also once we improve on it, it will actually bring you also sources from where we have gotten that information. So you're able to go back and reference for yourself and see whether that's agreeable.
Yeah. Okay, the math is mathing. Over to you, Caleb.
All right. For me, I would like to know, for example, you have showed us a newsroom whereby you paste a story to get verified. Now, for instance, is that during COVID-19, I did a story. Actually, I think during COVID-19, the story was about the reopening of schools, and I was the only person who had that story. The minister was coming from somewhere, and I ambushed him and said, when are we all that? And I was the only person who had that story at that moment. We did the story on the Nile Post, and the story went viral. Now, for that case, if I am the only person having that story, okay, what I'm confused somehow. How do you verify the words used in the story? Or if I'm the one having the story, how? Okay, that's what is confusing me. I would like you to elaborate more on that.
Okay, if you're the only one having that story. Thank you so much for bringing up that question. We put it into consideration. One of the things that the newsroom does is it still runs through experts and expert sources to bring the claim that probably could be in your story. But I believe that if you're the only one with a story and you've gotten it from a verified source, then I feel like you don't need to fact check that story. But if someone else probably wants to verify that information, they could probably ask the expert on the application to verify, and probably the expert will give them the fact check. But we take that into consideration and we'll think about it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
Hi, Edgar. Got me weirdly. So for me, it's more on, some of the limitations and some of the things I'm thinking around. For example, I encounter misinformation every day on X or whatever it is called nowadays, yeah? Every day, yeah? And some of this misinformation is real time. So for example, Gaza, Israel, 40 people bombed, yeah? And I want to know the real time. Did it actually happen, and at what time did it happen? So is there a mechanism for checking real-time information that is changing by the hour or by the minute or by the second? That said, also the other kind of misinformation I encounter every day is misinformation in Luganda and in all mixed languages, in Luganda and English, Kasavu Kanyama. And it's, what are the capabilities of, or are there plans for the bot to be able to verify misinformation in local languages or in, yeah. So the two questions about real time and also misinformation in local languages or mixed languages. And also the third one would be multimedia. What sort of media? Because I've seen you can upload something, but can you upload, let me say, a video of 30, 45 minutes? Can you upload the whole speech of the president? How does that work? Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm going to leave the technicalities to Emma around the language and also around real-time fake news. The issue to do with, this is very tricky. There's a lot of things we're working on, and one of the things is, yes, making sure that multimedia is able to, it's able to do audio, video, as it's doing the text. For now, we're doing text. Anything written, anything, but we've talked about video, we've talked about audio as well, and we're working around how to make sure that we don't crash the application, but we're also making sure that we cater for anyone who has that query.
Yeah. On the aspect of real-time information, currently the verifier survives on information that we're feeding it. So we plug in all these verified sources that we know. So if you got a story that came out maybe 2 hours ago and tried to verify it, the verifier currently will give you a polite answer that he doesn't know. But that is what we are really building. That's the milestone where we want this verifier to think in a certain way, the way we think here. That is the milestone, and that's where the hard work is, and that's what we're working on. Currently, if you ask a story that is 2 hours ago, but it's our target, and we're looking forward to achieving that. Thank you.
Thanks, Emmanuel. Maybe one thing I can say, I'm not a tech person, but something that I see, and you guys can let me know if I'm lying, verify. I believe that even as you're developing this type of thing, the more it's fed over time, the smarter it will become, and the better, the more it will be able to feed some of these questions that we are being asked, because of course they are very important things, but I think maybe, I don't know if limitation is the right word, but there are limitations when you've just started, and this app has to be fed things to reach a point where it can do a couple of different things that are so specific. Huh? Okay, so I'm not lying. Great. Ms. Mawadri wanted to say something.
No, I really applaud you. I laud you. Because honestly speaking, when I was, I'm a multitasker, but I was also checking out what the app does and all this. And my first excitement was, has anyone used ChatGTP here? Hands? Don't you feel the uncanny sort of semblance to the same? And I must say, this is the way it goes. If ChatGTP can happen and you can emulate AI for yourself, this is where it starts. Well done. Yes. About the editors,
There will be the professionals on the other end verifying. Well, we have a couple more questions and then close.
I want to first of all appreciate the team behind this app. It's going to really change the game, and I would propose that in future you consider availing this app on the desktop, so that if I'm having my laptop here and I would love to fact check something, I don't have to use a mobile phone all the time, because most of the editors there are using their desktops and stuff like that. So you can think about that as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My name is Daniel Mumbere, and I work with Rocket Health, but I'm also very passionate about fact-checking. And I was also very lucky to have tested the app. I think it is amazing, especially for journalists. I've tried the newsroom feature. I think for me, it's the best thing. But I think maybe that's because you have a journalism background. But I would encourage all of us to try it out. I think the only thing that I've also shared with the team is that because many people have biases, when I ask you a question, chances are higher I have an answer that I think. So after you verify, it would be nice to know your sources, such that I myself can also do the verification. I can go to those sources and verify, but also I think it's important to share the question he was asking about. Fact-checking helps if it's transparent. I want to know, how are you verifying this information such that I know whether I can trust the verified answers or not? Thank you.
Trust, very key. Any other questions? Maybe I'll ask one more question as we finish better. So what happens when two professionals disagree? I've asked the question, it's posted on the app. One of them says, this is correct. Then another one says, no, it's not.
Wow.
Science.
What a wow. Thank you. You really took a while to think about that one. But for now, I don't think I have an answer. So as comms, we're going to figure out strategies. I think Emmanuel and I will share pointers, and the team as well. I think there's always a common ground somewhere, somehow. And in the later, that's why we want to introduce conversations, between experts, but also in the community. So we can have the final say of, okay, now this is the fact, right? But that also goes to answering, how do we train a media literate society? So I think that whole process will probably encourage that. But for now, there's a lot of things to work on, like I mentioned, and we look forward to the journey ahead. And till next year, we'll be telling you what's up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then in the conversation earlier, there was an issue on shaming, in a way, shaming the false information. That once this story is fact-checked, we know, oh, it's false. Is there a plan to then show it off either on X or the different platforms that, oh, this is not true?
Yes, so one of the things we also do is we also produce fact checks ourselves. And while we gather misinformation online, we also translate that into audio, video, or we write on our website and show people, okay, this is what's true, this is what's false. And we also do that in regards to the application, and that's why we have the fact check section, so that we are always verifying misinformation and sharing it on the platform, and also on our different platforms on social media. Yeah.
Wow. Me as me. I am truly amazed. Are you not, Caleb?
Very amazed.
Are you feeling?
I think one of the, it's not a fun fact, but from the video that we watched earlier, all the conversations that the border guy is having, the one in the taxi, those we got on social media, and people had actually engaged in this conversation on Twitter. And so we just said, okay, let's just copy-paste this information, because
so there was someone going to
there's hate speech. People don't know what they're talking about, especially when it comes to the war. So people need to be educated.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Can we just give the team another amazing round of applause? What you're doing is revolutionary. We are in the, we're at a turning point. We're at a very important turning point. So thank you once again to the partners for making this possible. It's amazing. And I hope that we all will check out the app. At least for those of us in this room, let's be the first to check out the app, see what it's doing, make your comments, help these young people make it better so that it can serve us, serve the communities. So Caleb and I are at about that point where we are winding up this amazing session. Caleb, what has stood out for you? I know there are many things, but maybe one or two.
One of the things that stood out for me was, as much as the technology and AI is advancing, our ethics ought to be in place. Because if you don't stand for what you believe in, or if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. So us as journalists, the first thing is our ethics. The stories we tell, how we tell them. There's something that my pastor usually says, that when you're a Christian, you're not just a Christian on Sunday, you're also a Christian on other days. So when you're a journalist, you're not a journalist only when you're in studio, but also on your social media, in the conversations you have with your friend, in the radio cutaway, as Dr. shared earlier. And yeah, that's what I took home.
I think for me, still the idea of adaptation, because we've talked a lot about that, the landscape is so different now, and it's only going to keep changing and evolving. Definitely. And so all of these types of interventions that are new and fresh and meeting, that point of need precisely where it is. If the internet is doing this, how can we use the internet to to address that issue? I think that's a beautiful thing, and also just the building of culture. Yes. Ms. Mawadri has talked a lot about just the building of culture. I hope that that's something we can continue to ask ourselves, to introspect and say, how can I do my 1%, to slowly guide us away from, all of this misinformation, disinformation on the internet. Yes. But at this point, let me welcome once again Simon to give us some closing remarks as we wind down on this auspicious, I'm going to call it auspicious, auspicious afternoon of learning. Welcome, Simon.
Thank you very much. A very big round of applause to the team. The Debunk Media Initiative team, please come to the stage. Okay, the Debunk team. Clap for them, clap for them, clap for them. I want to, yes, Regan, thank you. And the developer. Okay, in a few months from today, this team will be giving us a robot. And I promised to punch in the first question. I want to ask this robot whether, if you have some questions on whether someone loves you, this person told me they love me and stuff like that, you can punch to this robot. And then it will respond with, that's fake news and stuff like that. So I brought them here so that you can know the team that is building the next best thing that is going to be in our newsroom. Let's clap for them as they go back. Our dear panelists, the moderators who are still here with us, the friends of MCI, and our partners in absentia, the U.S. Mission, I want to thank you very much for being a part of the Media Viability Talks. The conversations are just starting. Today is the beginning of the first activity of the Media Literacy Project countering misinformation in Uganda. I invite you to be a part of us, all organizations that are here present. Please join us as we wage this war against fake news and we promote information integrity in Uganda. I want to now invite you for the cocktail party. Please do not be in a rush to leave. We have some very good bites for you. Enjoy the rest of the evening. This conversation is ended.
Thank you so much, Simon. Let's go ahead and just clap. Let's clap because we've done something amazing here today.
Thank you.
So, from my co-MC and I also feel like maybe people have not understood who we are, Bambi. Reintroduce yourself, Caleb.
My name is Joshua Caleb Moyenza. I come from Kiss FM. I'm a writer, also do poetry, and sometimes in the bathroom I sing. Yeah.
People who say that are always really good singers. They just say to it's not a big deal. My name is Fiona Kemejisha, and I'm a digital content creator, a lawyer, and a communications consultant. It's been our absolute honor to MC this event. Thank you, MCI. Thank you, U.S. Mission to Uganda. And thank you, Debunk Media Initiative. And on that note, we'd like to welcome you to have a cocktail, have a snack, stay around, network, meet someone today.
Yeah. Your next employer, your next fact checker could be next to you, so go ahead.
Good evening.
Enjoy.